Welcome to Fat Man Beyond. I'm Kevin Smith.
I am Marc Bernardin.
Hey! Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our home, as always, here at the Scum and Villainy Cantina in Hollywood on Hollywood Boulevard. Put your hands together so the folks at home know you're real, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, we are still in Westeros, or Winterfell, which kind of still exists after last night. So the bar has spent a month being very Game of Thrones themed. This is going away, I think, tomorrow.
Tomorrow. This is the last day you can spend in Winterfell.
Totally, man. Just like, why? Because the fucking Night King's coming? He's easily beat now. We know how to do it, man. You just have Arya stab him in the gut. Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers.
I'm sorry, if you're coming to this show, I assume you all watched it and shit like that. That would be like coming to this show and not see Avengers Endgame. Has everyone... Yeah, exactly. Has anyone not seen Endgame yet? Just put your hands together real quick. Wow.
Yeah.
That's well done, kids. Well done.
You've done your nerd duty.
Is anyone who doesn't, or anyone who does watch Game of Thrones didn't see Game of Thrones last night? Did I just fucking ruin a piece of it for you? I mean, the internet, right? Like, they probably beat me to it and shit. God, I feel bad.
I don't.
It was 2 nights ago. Yeah, right. Fuck everyone. Yeah, man. We're gonna lose the look of the bar, which is nice. We should appreciate it one last fucking time and stuff. They did a really great job. Look at this. Yeah, give it up for the folks who did the bar. Now, the bar gets stripped down to the original concept, of course, which is the cantina, just in time for Saturday is May the 4th. So that is this, like when JC did this, when he did the Winterfell skin on the place. I was like, this is fucking dope. Leave it up for the whole run of the show. They only got 6 episodes and shit like that. And he said, we can't because May 4th is May the 4th. And I was like, yeah, I know. And then he said, but
we have one job.
He looked at me as if I was talking to the Pope, and I was like, you don't have to have church on Christmas. Like, he's like, that's our whole fucking thing, man. So they're going to strip it right back to the cantina, and so on Saturday, it's May the 4th, and it's big Star Wars celebration here at the Scum and Villainy Cantina. But as you would imagine, they're going to open a little earlier. What time are you opening up, JC?
6 a.m.?
6 a.m.
6 a.m.
Oh, shit.
6 a.m. on Saturday. Holy shit. Have fun, you alcoholics. And so, wow. I unfortunately won't be here. I will be on the East Coast doing a signing at Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash back in Jersey. Yes, I've heard of it too. But yeah, so man, if you're out here, this is the place to be. Although JC said last year, how long, what time, what was the line or whatever the fuck?
It was a Friday last year. We opened at 2 p.m. and we had 70 people in line on a Friday at 2 p.m. So, you know.
What didn't you say the other night? Like, didn't you have fucking, how many people were waiting in line?
About 250.
To come in for fucking Game of Thrones?
Yeah. I think Friday and Saturday we had about 250 in line each night. It was a 2-hour wait just to get in.
Why the fuck aren't you just always a Game of Thrones bar?
Because of
Star
Saturday,
Wars,
Kevin.
man. Like, oh my God, the money's in fucking the whites and shit like that. WIGHTS.
Yeah, no, it's always
not
been in the
whites.
whites.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry. Anywho, why is it because you're committed to the cause? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we said April 30th. That's today. We're sticking to it. We're going to do our May the 4th thing, and then hopefully people keep coming, or else I'm going to have a sad May.
But then you'll do another skinning.
Yeah, we're talking about, I'm throwing some ideas around for the fall.
I'm telling you, like every other month, it's just like, it creates excitement. People are like, ooh, what is it and shit. And I just say that because I know if you do it, if you do it every other month, you do it 6 times a year, it's a better chance of me being one of those times. Like, it's a Jay and Bob month and shit like that.
So movies.
Yes.
It's a convenience store.
Yeah, it's Quick Stop for 2 months. Get drunk with Dante. So anyway, what is what can we expect the Star Wars fan on May the 4th at this place? Do you do anything different?
We have a special menu. We're gonna have blue milk, green milk, Life Debt drink. It's a trap drink, and Qui-Gon gin and juice.
That's genius, man. Come on, that's the reason to have the bar in the first place. That's some clever shit.
And then we're gonna do custom T-shirts.
What do you mean?
Patio. So we'll have like 3 or 4 T-shirt designs that you can actually, like, we'll have a wanted poster, Scum and Villainies Most Wanted, and you will be able to text a photo of yourself to the T-shirt printer, and 6 minutes later have a wanted poster with your face on your T-shirt that you can wear throughout the day.
So we'll have like, me?
Yeah, so we'll have like 3 or 4 designs, and then if you're just like, I don't want to be on your wanted poster, I have this sick Boba Fett costume, and I've been photoshopped myself on Tatooine crawling out of the Sarlacc. We can print that for you too. So it'll be a totally custom T-shirt shop on May the 4th.
What a fucking glorious age of wonder that we live in, man. How amazing. But I guess, I mean, you used to have to go to the mall for that kind of technology and shit.
Now you have to go to the nerd bar.
Now you can come fucking here getting drunk, and at the same time, you're like, oh, I'll get a me shirt as well. And fucking off you go.
I'm going to make a T-shirt of my ass. Hold on. Click. Text. Where.
Oh, my God.
Boom.
How many dick pic shirts are you going to be printing on Star Wars Day? Look at my lightsaber.
May the Schwartz be with you.
And then we're going to do, at 11, I'm going to host Star Wars trivia from probably 11 to noon or 1.
Can they win shit?
Yeah, so it'll be a $5 per person buy-in, and then whoever wins gets the whole pot.
Ooh,
so if 100 people show up at $5 a person, you win $500 for knowing stuff that your mom told you. When is that ever going to come in handy?
Give it up for JC, man.
That's my life, man.
Still swinging that flag. Like, I knew I was right to like Star Wars. Look at this. I'm right. Yeah, man. Fucking, that sounds dope. I bet you I could win that Star Wars trivia. Although, are you picking the questions?
Yeah, I wrote all the questions. But it'll be fun. Like, we've
That
got
would be
some.
tough. He actually goes deeper than I do.
I'm trying to, last year I did like movie by movie. So it was like, what's the unit identification number on the trash compactor? Or what's Princess Leia's cell number on the Death Star? This year, yeah.
And you threw those out like dumb sample questions. I'm like stumped. I'm like, oh my God, is that the level we're dealing with?
Well, this
None
year.
of these answers are TK421. I'm fucked.
That is TK. Is one of them TK421? No, that's
the stormtrooper that Luke
that's
steals his
yeah,
costume.
he's like TK421. You lost for us, man.
I told you I was gonna.
Don't buzz in on Jeopardy.
We're gonna do a little different. I'm gonna do like finish this line. You know, so like if you strike me down, finish the line. I will be more powerful than you can possibly
I got a
imagine.
better chance at that, but still.
And like I've got sound effects that weren't like not mixed into the movie, like the raw sound effects. So I'm gonna play like a TIE fighter, and you'll have to say TIE fighter instead of like spaceship or Millennium Falcon.
Oh, so
like
you gotta
identify
the sound.
what the actual sound effect is, which is harder than you think when it's not mixed behind music and everything else.
Oh my God! So that's like an audio double.
So that'll be
Jeopardy.
an audio, full audio round. So I'm doing some more genre-based questions.
Fucking love it, dude. You're living your best goddamn life in this bar, man. Give it up for JC. That's good shit. Well done. Can I get an iced tea or some such shit? I hate to put you back to work, but I'm like, can I get a drink? Give it up for him. Can I get a fucking drink? All right, man. Big fucking weekend in our world, and not even. That's the beautiful thing. Used to be, you would say, this is a big weekend in our world. Our world is now the fucking world. The shit that like we've liked our whole lives. everybody fucking likes. So it's no longer like, oh man, like, did you see this thing? Like, no, what is it? Thank you. We got to identify some shit. Like the same shit that we like, everybody's fucking mother likes. So we all saw the same shit. It's no more inside. Both of the two big events of this weekend, Avengers Endgame and Game of Thrones, belong to everybody, but they smell like shit that belongs specifically.
Excuse me.
Yeah, really, fucking.
On your left.
On your left. They smell like shit that specifically comes from our world and shit that we talk about here on a regular basis, but it's no longer inside baseball. It's so fucking outside. It's everybody's at this point. It's the culture. It's no longer even pop culture.
Not when a movie opens at $1.3 billion in 3 days.
Unbelievable.
3 days.
First one in history.
First one in history to open over $1 billion.
God damn it.
It took Captain Marvel 51 days to make $1.1 million, and Endgame did it in 3 fucking days. And you don't get that unless everybody in the world goes.
Yeah.
You know, like I had to tell my mom what to expect. Like, okay, Mom, I know you saw Black Panther. It's cool. Here's what happens post Black Panther. All right, do I need to know? You need to know all of it for any of this to make any sense.
Right.
And so I spent like 45 minutes on the phone with my mom, giving her the cliff notes of 22 movies worth of Marvel. She's like, okay, I get it. No, you don't. I don't. She went anyway.
My mom did not. She was like, you'll tell me all about it, Tiger. I was like, I totally will, Mom. If I brought her to that movie, she'd sleep through most of it. Like 3 hours and shit. She'd be like, oh, this is lovely. I took her to see A Star is Born because she took me to see the original one when I was a kid, Barbra Streisand. So I took her to see the one with Lady Gaga. And she was all Twitter like, oh, my God, I took you to see this when you were a kid. I was like, I know, Ma, symmetry, closing a loop and shit. We get into the movie, fucking 20 minutes in, and it's a fucking good movie. You've seen it.
I have
We
seen
talked about it and shit. This is a fucking dope movie and shit. Like, he's a really good director. And so you're watching the flick, and I'm starting to get emotionally engaged, and I turn to my mom, because she's also a fucking crier and shit, to be like, right? And she's it was out fucking cold and shit. But
they're in the shallows now, Mom.
Yeah, she didn't care. Nope. She was in the fucking slumbers is where my mom was. So, yeah, she wouldn't manage very well at the 3-hour Endgame and stuff, but not because she doesn't like the genre. And she loves that I love it. She's like, oh, Tiger, how nice at age 50 to still like things that you liked when you were a kid. And I'm like, first off, Mom, I'm 48. You know, I came out of you, you might remember, you know. But yeah, it's a lot of people's mothers fucking wound up going this week. And you're right, you don't get to 1.2 billion or 1.3 billion on just the backs of the normal people that go. Yes, they all went, and as shouted out from before, twice.
Yeah.
Like, you know, how many people, show of hands, how many people have seen it more than once? It's actually, and me too. That's like, I mean, it's very good, but it's also fairly conservative, like to get to that 1.2 number.
Yeah.
I wonder who else is going. Like, because people obviously who don't normally go to the movies are coming out. Who is that?
I think it's also people who don't normally go to the movies and definitely don't normally go to movies twice, have gone twice, and some 3 times, and some 4 times, and a couple of 5-timers. I'm 3. I went to my 3rd showing today.
You saw it 3 times?
Yeah.
I've seen it twice. I went to the premiere, humble brag, and then I paid to see it like a fucking regular human being at the movie theater up at City Walk at 8 in the morning. Me and Nate went fucking 8:30 in the morning. Holy shit, man! And you normally, you know, that's one of the reasons I moved to Los Angeles in the first place, because I was like, you can go to the movies at 8 in the morning if you want, and I never do that. But but here finally, I've been living here 17 years. Here was an opportunity to fucking finally do that thing. And we went up to City Walk. I got to tell you, there were more people there at 8 in the morning. Was it Saturday or Sunday? Saturday? More people there at 8 in the morning than you would have expected. Like, that's why the 1.3 doesn't surprise me, because that theater is fairly packed for like 8 in the morning.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I went today at 11 a.m. and it
Okay.
was almost sold out. And this is like a work day.
It's a Tuesday.
A Tuesday. I mean, I'm a degenerate, but you people should have jobs.
Yeah,
but
really.
Good on you, because I'm here too.
What is, all right, so you saw it 3 times.
So 3 times.
What insight do you have on the 3rd round that maybe I didn't have on the first 2?
Well, I mean, the first time you see it, at least the first time I saw it, I was just amazed that it exists at all. because there's so much fucking heavy lifting in that movie. There's so many emotional stories to carry through. There's so much plot shit you got to resolve. You at some point will have a giant fight with like 5,000 figures on the screen at once, conservatively speaking, and you know half of their names. For any of that shit to be like actually functioning as drama is impossible. Like just the fact that they did it and got it done and landed all those planes at once. The second time I saw it, it became like, oh, here are all of the awesome moments. Like even the little moments that I missed before. And I had watched Winter Soldier before I saw it the second time. And so like all of those little grace notes from that movie, the first Russo brothers movie, gets paid off in this one. And just such like the On Your Left. Like, right. I tear up every time you get to On Your Left.
Right.
Because that's the very first line in the Russo brothers movie. And it just lands with such an emotional wallop if you bring that in there. The third time I saw it, I figured out what the movie was about. Because every other time I was just like, this is great, so much candy, it's lovely. Look, he picks up the fucking hammer. He picks up the hammer.
Spoilers.
Yeah. He's worthy. He's always been worthy.
That was a huge fucking moment. Again, this is a humble brag, but this is inherent to the story. When I saw the movie at the premiere, I saw it with all the Avengers in attendance and stuff. And it was mostly, from what I could figure out, mostly cast and crew. Like, because they didn't have a cast and crew screening or any of that shit. Like, so many people were seeing the movie literally for the first time that night. So it was generally a bunch of people, like at the end, because everybody got up on stage and shit like that. They did a poll from the audience, like how many people are here with, somebody who made or worked on the movie, and it was 75-80% of the audience. So you were watching the movie with people responsible for the fucking movie. So everyone, let's say 80% of that room, knows that eventually Captain America is going to lift Mjolnir. And still, when that moment fucking happened, it was thunderous. Like as if they didn't fucking know. Like I went, again, this sounds like a humble brag, but fuck, it's part of the story. I got to go, Chris Hemsworth gave me a fucking ticket. So I was there as his guest. You'd imagine he fucking knew. You know what I'm saying? He was there when I saw him in the scene. He was like, I knew it and shit. And when it happened, even he was like, yeah! Like, you can't help but be fucking swept up. 10 years of watching those movies and they fucking paid off even the slightest fucking interest in something like that. So yeah, that was a religious fucking moment.
Yeah. And the time,
what's the movie about?
The movie at the end of the day is about, it's about mothers and sons and fathers and daughters and generational being able to say goodbye. It's about being able to get the second chance to say the things you didn't get to say before. It's about Tony getting to talk to his dad. It's about Thor getting to talk to his mom.
That's my favorite scene in the movie is Tony and his dad. I mean, look, I love the whole movie. I'm not elevating this one scene to say like the rest is dog shit. It's all great. But I saw it twice. And my second viewing, I was able to be like, all right, I know hands down what my favorite scene in the movie is, and it's between him and Tony and his dad. I think it's so incredibly artfully done and so true to Tony Stark's character. Like, it would have been tempting to go out mawkishly, to have him be like, I love you, because we've seen his daddy issues through a lot of these movies and whatnot. And here is the moment where he gets to, not through a computer generation, but literally in person, interact with his fucking father. For me, that was everything. Like they landed that scene so incredibly well by not letting Tony go weepy or be like, you know what, I was fucking wrong or anything like that. Like they let him hug and shit, and then he plays it off like, thank you for your service. But like the fact that that they let it get down to as simple as Howard being like, my old man, there was no problem he couldn't solve with a belt, without a belt or something. And then Tony saying, I used to think my old man was hard on me, but now I realize, he was trying to do his best. That's cathartic as fuck when you think about that character. Because that character is one of the most self-involved heroes that have ever been presented in major media. Like, in fact, the 10-year arc of him getting to this is about, like, even seeded in there by having Howard say, like, let's just say personal self-interests have always
Outweighed the greater good.
And he's his father's son. So all these movies is essentially his struggle to become a fucking hero. And he, spoilers, fucking dies. A hero dies finally going like, this is what it takes. He finally puts everybody else's interests in front of his. And he had way more to lose in this movie than he had when we previously knew him. Suddenly he had a kid. So that scene with his dad is everything. On my second viewing, I was like, Jesus, the whole movie kind of rests and pivots on it. And I also love the scene with Thor and Frigga, his mom. Mm-hmm. And now that you say what you said, I'm like, oh shit, no wonder I was so dialed in, because you may be right. That's what it is. Say it again. That's real smart.
It's about being able to say the things you've never gotten to say. And the time travel, at the end of the day, is letting these characters do that. They're letting them drop back into their old lives and say what they've never been able to say with the perspective they have now. And it even ends with Tony being able to say the things via his recording to his daughter and to his wife.
You're going to make me cry. Don't be specific like that.
Oh
my God, that cheeseburgers moment with Favreau haunts me, man. Fucking haunts me. Like I want to find him and give him a hug. It was so beautiful. And as soon as she said cheeseburgers, even before he fucking reacted on screen, I was like, oh, that's what Tony wanted when he got out of the desert. Like Jesus,
Yeah. But, and so it's a movie that is letting us say goodbye to this version of the Marvel Universe by having characters getting to say their goodbyes to people that they have meant everything to but have never said it to.
Fucking smart.
And so to have, even fucking Spidey to come back and just to have Tony be able to hug him like I brought the kid back, like I did the thing that I should have done. I got to embrace him because I never did. Every time he wanted me to hug him, I never hugged him. Right. And now this one time I get to do that. And so the weird meta-ness of the last chapter in this particular story being about last chapters really resonated with me this past time.
It's got to be intentional, right? Just
it's totally intentional.
Happen by accident.
Yeah, because there's no movie that's not about something. You almost can't accidentally spend that much money and not have it say anything. Even if it's the dumbest thing, it's going to say something. And so for them to decide that, listen, we have this daffy-ass time travel thing, which we're going to poke fun at the entire time, it's magic.
The Meg? What did that say?
Science is bad, yo.
Good point, yeah. Good point. You know what? Both of those are lessons.
And so like the third time, like, yeah, some of the time travel doesn't really work out. Like, how is
that right?
It doesn't. It's magic, and magic has its own fucking rules. And the rules are whatever they need it to be. Like
I'm not smart enough to think like that. Like I saw it twice and I didn't bump into anything. But the internet way smarter than me. And I saw like something on Twitter where somebody wrote like, I would like to be there when Cap has to return the stones at the end. They were like, I'd like to be there when Cap has to put the ether back into Jane. And I was like, oh my God, that's right. How do you do that? Yeah. Ma'am, can you bend over? Yeah. And then somebody else pointed out that like he's also got to return a stone to the Red Skull. And what's that conversation like? Like, hey.
But it's also like
remember the 40s? Yeah.
But also in that scene, like it's a soul for a soul. Like if you give him back the soul stone, does he have to give you back a soul?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Is that the back door to like, because they're still talking about there's going to be a Black Widow movie. And after I saw this, I was like, how? But if unless I was like, maybe they could do a previous story, but like, do you really, and we talked about it, me and Mark were lucky enough to sit down with on Sunday. Remember here in an episode of The Bar, Marcus and McFeely, the screenwriters of Infinity War, were here chit-chatting. They came over to my house on Sunday and we sat down and talked to them. We sucked their dicks for two and a half glorious fucking hours and like talked fucking about the movie from one end to the other and stuff. And fuck, why did I dive into that? Because we were just saying something.
Period, Black Widow.
Black Widow. Yes. Oh, I brought it up in the podcast. If they did a story, it's because you brought it up. Mm-hmm. Mark said he's got a theory that Spider-Man Far From Home takes place before the snap.
Yeah, like that when you see those kids in the trailer in Far From Home, that is they are coming back from the airport from being in Europe, and then they're on the bridge driving back into the city when all this shit appears in the air. So that's how you get all of those kids who clearly, like, some of them have been snapped, some of them not, whatever. Like, this is all kind of before then. It could be bullshit. I might be making it up. I am definitely making it up, but it could track if you wanted it. If they wanted to do that, like that, there's a loophole for you to have that.
And my question was, would that be satisfying for an audience? Like, once you've seen Endgame, and not that, like, hey man, everything's got to be as good as Endgame, but Endgame sets the table to be like, this is where we are now in the Marvel universe. I understand, like, you could always do flashbacks and shit, but if somebody was like, hey, this whole fucking movie takes place before Endgame, like, isn't it feel weird at that point? Like, wait, no, let's move forward. Why are you going back?
I mean, that's all Captain Marvel is. Like, here's an entire movie that takes place before the events of this other movie.
Good point. Yeah, but it's not a sequel. It would be weird to see a
that's
Spider-Man
true.
sequel that was kind of set in the past. And it looks like in the trailer that he's leaving this is what I take from it. He leaves the Spider-Man suit behind because he's bummed that Tony Stark's not alive anymore. That's what I now put through the fucking prism of having watched Endgame. Like, oh, maybe he's kind of mopey and not into the hero biz because he lost his buddy.
Could be.
It was anyway. Back to what we were saying.
Yeah, just that, you know, that yes, maybe there's a world in which Natasha isn't dead because, you know, he's got to give the Soul Stone back. You get a soul in exchange for that. It's a soul for a soul, as we've been told like 4 different times. So,
ooh, all right. So you're Captain America, and you're a pretty good dude, but you're still fucking, you know, Justice. So you're willing to punch people in the fucking mush and stuff. But at the same time, you're, you know, what did Ultron call him? God's righteous man or something like that. God's righteous soldier. Is there a world where he brings back the Soul Stone and it's a life for a life or a stone for a life or whatever the fuck? And like the Red Skull could possibly be released in exchange for the stone.
I don't know if he does that.
He's not that good a guy.
He's not that good. Not if you could also get it. Not if it's like you can have Natasha or that potato head motherfucker. How about like my best riding buddy or like the villain,
Right.
who might have learned some shit at the edge of eternity, but still.
That's good justification. I don't want to be like a member of the faithful in a world where you're God. Where you're like, look, he may have learned some shit at the end, but fuck him. Too late.
Redemption is bullshit. But yeah, and so like all of the fucking time travel shit, like I don't know how old Cap is supposed to be by the time you meet him on the park bench, but it feels like he's more than 100 years old and looks kind of spry, and so super soldier serum, I guess, but whatever, who gives a fuck? Because the emotion of it lands so hard.
Right.
Like by the time you're riding with this movie, by the time you're like, how does Nebula's brain have time travel in it? Like, why is she getting signals from future self into past self? I don't care.
Right.
I just don't care. Like, could you pick it apart? Probably. Like, does it make your life better to do so? Not really.
Somebody asked online, or a bunch of people were talking about, wait a second, like fucking Peter Parker sees Ned in school and they're both the same age. Nobody's older like Scott Lang's kid, like who aged 5 years. But what I understood was a bunch of people got snapped. So Ned and Peter Parker were 2 of them. Maybe like, and I'm not saying everyone in that school was snapped, but like a bunch of them probably did get snapped. So it'd be curious to see, like, but we've seen the trailer, so we've seen like all his gang. So what, they all got fucking snapped?
Maybe.
What a bad classroom day that was. You know what I'm saying? Like your homeroom and you're like, Peter's gone and Betty and fucking Jesus, where's Ned?
Yeah. Aaron? Is Aaron here? Aaron got snapped. Balake, is he here?
Where's Flash? Is Flash here? Fuck.
D-Nice? Is there a D-Nice? And the one thing that
Cassie Lang, shut up. Sit down.
the other thing that I was on the fence about, and it's a judgment call, and the boys had perfectly good reasons why they made this call.
The boys being Marcus and McFeely.
Marcus and McFeely. I in my heart of hearts wanted Hawkeye to fucking die. I didn't quite understand the logic for not doing that, because who gives a fuck about Hawkeye?
Well, but then that's
His wife and kids.
But then
that's true.
But that's why you don't kill Hawkeye, because you just said it. Like, who gives a fuck about Hawkeye? So you give a fuck about Black Widow. So if she's the one that goes over, it rips everyone's fucking heart out. Right. And they apparently have a plan to bring her back. So don't feel too bad and shit. Because if they killed Hawkeye, believe me, he wasn't coming back. I know they're like, we're going to make a show. I'll believe it when I fucking see it, you know?
Right. But I personally would have rather have seen Natasha register the loss of Hawkeye and have to go to that house and explain what happened. Like, just that emotion.
Don't fucking make a great movie better, Mark. With your fan fiction. But yeah, that would be fucking cool.
Yeah.
You're right. There's more. Yeah. Because nobody had to. There was a certain, like, point in the movie where, you know, Nat dies. Black Widow sacrifices herself, and they show her from above and bleeding, and he's fucking no and shit, and there's a swell of the music, and they come back, and there's a moment of like, where's Nat? And she didn't make it, and the Hulk's mad, and he whips a bench at one point and shit. But then,
and that's the bench Cap sits on at the end of the movie.
wow.
He threw it into the future.
It's amazing. That's good fan service right there. But they did go kind of quiet on Black Widow for a minute. Till Hulk was like, I tried to bring her back with the snap and shit like that. But Tony's death was felt like in 1983 is how fucking like all encompassing it was. Yeah. Like it was, and you know, we love Black Widow, but still, Tony's was, there's a lot more time, and it was in the right section of the movie. Like, Black Widow dies, and you're like, oh, that's sad, but we got to go kill Thanos. Fuck that. You know? Whereas Tony dies, and Thanos is dead, so you're like, oh, it's so fucking sad. We're getting to the credits, shit. You know?
Everybody got to get their blacks on. We got to do a funeral thing.
Yeah. That funeral, too, we should point out, like, everybody's standing there, and they do that shot tracking, like, look at all these fucking, look how expensive this is. Look at all these movie stars. First time I saw it, you know, this is a movie that, like, one of the main characters is not real. He's a big, giant fucking cartoon and shit. He's so convincing, you think he's there, but he ain't really there. So in that world, you know, there's a world where you stitch together that funeral shot, because you're looking at that shot and you're like, there's no way on earth you could fucking collect all these people for one day in the same fucking place. Look at all these fucking expensive ass people, man. Like, I don't care who's footing the bill. Like, it's just, this is impossible.
That's a $20 million shot before you shoot any film.
Exactly. Before you get to spend anything else. So in my mind, and I didn't give a shit, I thought it was artfully done, but I was like, that has to be fucking stitched together. But Marcus and McFeely told us on the show.
Yeah, they're like, we were there that day in Atlanta, like, and everybody was fucking there.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. They said that they built the
One good bomb would have taken out the entire Marvel universe. But where would we be then? Like, it's irresponsible to put that many characters in one place. Totally. Like the Fighting Fitzgerald, you put them on different boats and shit.
Like, who's the Secretary of Education back in the bunker?
Yes.
Just in case.
Don't they do that with the government? And that's the government. These are Marvel characters. Save them at all costs. But but that's impressive, man. That shows you the power of those. Could you imagine 10 years ago when they started this? They asked all those famous people, like, do you think you could all come out and do a shot for us? They'd be like, go fuck yourselves. 10 years later, though, fucking, like, you know, the only one who, nobody would say no. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm sure if they called the DC characters, be like, hey, lend us Batman, they would be like, go ahead, yeah, go. That'll be good for the brand. Get over there, man. Hang out with Tony Stark.
And then there was that fucking kid in the back of that shot, who I was like, who was that fucking kid?
First time I saw the movie, you know, they show everybody at the funerals, like, these are the most famous fucking people in the world. And then there was one person where I was like, wait, who's that? And then I saw somebody else and I forgot about it. And then I was like, you know what? It's probably fucking Peter Parker. But then I was like, no, Peter Parker was on the dock with Aunt May and shit. And I was like, you know what? Don't matter. Oh my God, there's Nick Fury. You know, and I was on to something else and shit. Second time I went back, when it happened, I was ready for it, shit, because I was here, they're crawling through the funeral and shit, in what I assumed was a digitally stitched shot, but we now know it wasn't. And as they came to that kid, I turned to Nate and I was like, who the fuck is that kid? And Nate, who knows everything, was like, I don't know. I was like, this is the one reason you're here, man. Fuck. So neither of us fucking knew. And I got home, and I forget who it was. I think it was Will Wilkins. I was texting with him because he loved the fucking movie. Will does all our digital stuff at Smodco. And he also does a show called Netheads. He was texting me about the fucking movie, and he was the one, like, I put up a 1 hour review on YouTube and stuff. And so he was like, hey, I saw in the review that you loved the Jarvis thing. And I said, yeah, I thought that was fucking amazing. And he's like, Jarvis, that guy who played Jarvis, and Jarvis was a character on the show Agent Carter. He's like, I guess you never watched that. I was like, no, I never did. And he's like, that Jarvis came from there. He was a main character, like he was in a lot of adventures. Because I loved that fucking moment in the movie where Howard was like, come on, Jarvis. And I was like, holy shit. Like, in the movies, they'd never acknowledged, where Jarvis came from other than the AI that Tony had built into his house and shit. But if you know comics and you go deep with the comics, Jarvis was their fucking Alfred in Avengers Mansion and shit, growing up in the comics. So to see that moment where there was a real Jarvis, like, I was like, oh, that cracked my world in two. I wanted to, like, find the Russo brothers and fillet them both to death. I was like, that is amazing fan service, man, that you thought to fucking include Jarvis? Like, that's fuck. And then and fucking Will was like, no, man, Jarvis was in Agent Carter. He's like, so you're right. It was amazing fan service, but not for the reason you thought. It was the reason that they had done that on a show, and no Marvel movie had ever acknowledged any Marvel show before. And he's like, that was literally the first time that they acknowledged anything that they'd done on TV. So it was a huge, like, fan service moment in a different way than I was aware. So we were talking about that, and then I was like, this motherfucker's in the know. So I was like, hey, who was that fucking boy at the funeral who wasn't famous? And he goes, that's the boy from Iron Man 3. And I said, get the fuck out of here. I said, what incredible fan service, man. That dude was so important to Tony Stark, that whole fucking movie. He was the kid that got Tony over the hump.
The problem is, the kid is now like 10 years older.
Yeah.
And unrecognizable if you watched Iron Man 3.
He should have wore a fucking placard that said, kid from Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. Because it really was like, and I wonder if they gave a shit or if they discussed it or if they were like, it's an Easter egg. Because it was a moment that I bumped into twice. In a moment where you're lost, like, just emotionally, and you're like, oh, he's dead, and they're all sad too. What the fuck's gonna happen? Who is that? Oh, fucking God. Just fucking took you out for a second. I think in future editions they should Chiron him.
Just kid from Iron Man 3.
But I thought that was incredible fan service to include that character as well.
Yeah, I kept on thinking, is there nobody else who means anything to fucking Tony besides that kid? Like the journalist he sleeps with twice, apparently. Justin Hammer, like, could Justin just show up at his fucking Prison Blues and like, sorry, Tony.
He wouldn't be there though, right? Because he'd be like, I hate Tony Stark. But the journalist is a good fucking call. But how awkward would that be? Especially because, like, remember Pepper throws her out. She's like, I do many things for Mr. Stark, including taking out the trash, And then she's at the funeral, and like, how weird, like, hey, 10 years ago, didn't you fuck my husband, you piece of shit? Like, actually, I do want to see that movie now.
Hi, Morgan, how are you? I fucked your dad quite a bit.
Yeah. Morgan's like, who's that? And she's like, oh, you know what? She shouldn't be here.
None of the rest of them are here.
But you're right. Like, I thought about that too when I heard it was the kid. I was like, wait a second. And I did a mental accounting of anybody he's ever interacted with that wasn't an Avenger or in other movies and shit. And with the exception of, like, the people who are dead, like, fucking Jeff Bridges, who played, what was his name? Obadiah Stane. Such a metal name. He's dead, but they were close, but then, so close that he was like Scar from fucking Lion King. And then, I think that's where they got it. And then Favreau directs Lion King.
Oh, shit.
There is something going on in Hollywood, isn't there?
There's also the lady doctor from Ultron.
She was only in one movie.
So was that fucking kid.
But the kid, like, interacted with Tony. So she was just like, the lady who built Vision.
Oh, yeah, who built the body.
The doctor who's like, is
She's
Thor
at the party
coming?
scene, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you need bodies there.
I mean, they didn't need bodies, but, like, I didn't bump into the fact she wasn't there. I was like, where's that doctor? Especially you don't want a doctor there. He'd be like, where were you? We could have needed you when fucking he died, you piece of shit. Get out of here.
I was snapped, motherfuckers. I was snapped.
There you go. Yeah. God, you got an answer for everything. You're a good writer, man. Well done. That's true. He's got you there. You're not nearly as good a writer as this guy is. I'll tell you, man, it was amazing when we sat down and talked to Marcus and McFeely. We literally, like, I wasn't aware of the news at that point of what the movie had made. So, you know, when they sat down for us to record the podcast, it was like, they were talking about like what I was like, boy, it must be a great weekend for you because I'm just assuming it's doing well and shit. And they're like, yeah, bless you. And I was like, thanks for making the time to come over and do this. And they're like, at a certain point, they were joking. There's like a certain point you just can't keep looking at the grosses or something like that. And I was like, oh, you guys must know what the movie made already. And they looked at me as if I was just like, oh, do you guys know there's a holiday called Halloween? You know? And they were like, they've announced it, $1.2 billion. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, can I borrow some money? That right there, they're just two of the most successful writers on the planet,
Bar
right?
none.
That's nuts. Man, we got to tell him, I mean, you know, Mark knows him and stuff, but I got to tell him, I told him when we did the show here, but especially after Endgame, like, they're two of my favorite writers on the planet because they're responsible for so many fucking movies I love. The boys did all the Captain Americas.
Yeah.
Like, and I like, when we were talking to him, I don't know if it was on the show or before the show, we were talking about like how the movie ends so beautifully on Cap getting his last dance with Peggy that he talks about in Captain America, the First Avenger and shit. So I was just like, I knew the boys had written Winter Soldier, Forward and stuff, but I was like, did you guys write the First Avenger as well? And they were like, yeah, that's ours. And I was like, that's why you fucking ended the movie with like a Captain America First Avenger reference, because you wrote that fucking movie, man. I was like, it's almost like if I didn't know better, I would have thought you guys also wrote Thor: The Dark World as well, because it's referenced so much in this movie. And they're like, we did write Thor: The Dark World.
We don't like to talk about that.
And I was like, oh my God, but it was so brilliant because like they took the movie that most people were like, yeah, I think I saw Thor: The Dark World, like the lesser child of the Marvel movies, and then made it reintegral by playing it so much in this movie. It was almost like they were like, fuck you, you're gonna like The Dark World. Maybe you just didn't understand it last time. And goddamn it, if they didn't make me go back and rewatch fucking Dark World, I was like, this shit ain't bad now that I've seen Endgame, you know. It just took a few years. It's kind of brilliant.
I wonder if Marvel will ever release some mega cut version of all those fucking movies with those scenes dropped back into them, chronologically speaking.
Ooh, I would sit down and watch it.
Right?
Like, you wouldn't even have to be like, oh, fucking, can you make? Yeah, I'll make it. I'll Clockwork Orange that shit, man. All right, so I feel like we've blown this movie properly. Is there anything to talk about that we haven't addressed about Endgame? Do you want to talk about, I mean, you're very eloquent in what you said, but I spent an hour talking about it. I don't know if there was anything more you wanted to do.
I can get done what you need an hour in about 10 minutes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Take it.
I took it.
Oh, you're done?
I'm done.
Moving the fuck on.
And next.
You want to talk about Thrones?
We should talk about Thrones. We should also talk about the fact that this year is unique, I think, in all of pop culture history, and that we are bringing an end to this wave of Marvel. The Avengers are done. And the fact that they signed off just like Star Trek 6 made us both so fucking happy.
Yes.
With signatures.
For those who are like, what? The signatures at the end of the credits of Endgame, where it's like Chris Evans, like the 6 original Avengers each had their signatures over their picture and their names in the credits. And the last Star Trek movie that the original Enterprise cast was in, they did the same thing in their credits. So when I was watching the movie and they did that, I was like, holy shit, man, they just pulled a fucking Star Trek. And we got to ask Marcus and McFeely, like, did you guys know that in Star Trek, he's like, that's where we got it, bro. Like, and it was a conscious decision, like the same way in... Yes! They, the same way that like at the end of that, it was 6?
Yeah.
The end of that Star Trek, like that was it for Kirk and Uhura and fucking all the normals, Bones and shit. So they had him like signed their names, and the names went off into the stars. So the idea here was like, look, we all know these cats are done, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like fucking, you might see this one here or there, but we're done with these original 6 Avengers as you know it. So it was kind of a double underline, like to the hardcore geek. Like if you know your geek history, you know we're serious. Chris Evans is done, you know, because he wrote his name and shit, just like fucking Kirk did.
But yeah, that was glorious. But this year, the end of the Avengers as we know it, the end of Game of Thrones as we know it,
Yes.
prequels, whatever, and the end of Star Wars as we know it will be the end of this year. The Skywalker saga will be over. And
This is
so-
like one of those movies where it's just like every 1,000 years the planets align. Wow, that's
but
crazy.
For there to be a year where you're closing the books on so much big shit is kind of, it's an interesting place to be, having loved this shit for as long as I've been alive, to find, and knowing full well that, yeah, they're gonna find a way to make another Captain America thing. It'll probably be Sam. You could also absolutely do like 1960s, like super retro spy Captain America, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. I would also watch the fuck out of that.
What you mean with?
Chris Evans.
That's right.
'Cause
That's
he's-
right.
He's
When-
now back in the past.
If Chris Evans is ever like, I fucking need another house, he could pop back in and fucking do Captain America like in the time stream and shit.
Yeah, like you could do like the James Bond era, fucking classic spy shit.
Ooh, let me ask you that question. So Peggy Carter,
Yes,
I remember one of the movies. She got married, had a husband, had a life.
yes.
Did she have kids?
No.
I know we know she's got a niece.
Did she? She had kids
In the
That's
show,
right. She does have kids.
in
Yeah.
the Agent Carter show, she had kids.
No, the Agent Carter show is period, and it's still when she's back in.
So
young
she
and
never
it's-
met the dude or whatever.
I don't think we see her meet the.
So
dude.
then Winter Soldier was the only movie in which they referenced her life without Steve.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew she was married, but I didn't know if she had kids or not.
apparently she does have kids.
Now,
Yes.
do those kids exist anymore?
Multiple splits. They exist in your world.
Listen,
There are way too many people answering this question.
I know. Like-
I asked this guy who apparently doesn't know.
And also because like it's way too many like Back to the Future 2 answers, even though this movie goes painfully out of its way to say all of that shit is nonsense because the past, your present becomes the past and your past becomes the future. And
This is like the ending of fucking Trading Places to me, man. Like, it's just too confusing. I'm just like, hey, credits, we're good.
Because again, it's magic. Whatever we want to have happen will happen. If they want her to have kids, she'll have kids. If they don't want her, they'll say timeline, bullshit, whatever. Fundamentally, it doesn't matter.
But wait, so if she does have kids in some different timeline, that means there's two Peggys?
If, according to the
So
to
it's the multiverse.
it's the multiverse / Back to the Future 2 explanation.
All right. I mean, I was okay with him, like, fucking zapping her husband out of existence. Because I'm like, hey, man, like, to be fair, if he didn't go on the ice, like, they were probably going to get together and shit. So that was all right with me. But, like, kids, that'd be weird.
But and also, like if you want to stick to the Back to the Future of it all, he goes back to the past, and he is the husband that Peggy is referring to when she's on her own deathbed.
She knew the whole time?
She knew the whole time, but she had dementia, so she was losing her mind, and so every now and again, she, Steve, you look so young.
We had the writers in the room. Why didn't we ask them that? Oh my God! What a great explanation. Maybe he was the guy.
He could have been the guy. They could have had kids.
So, but he didn't know. So when
didn't
he's
know
sitting
then.
there talking to her as an old lady and shit, and she's like, my husband and shit, he had no idea it might have been him.
Yeah.
That would have been useful information, you know? Because I'm sure you're sitting there going, your fucking husband, what a dick. And all she would have had to say was, it was you, Steve, you know? And then they could have showed us what happened in Endgame. And oh, that's good. I like it. I'll buy that. Fuck,
We'll
that's
take it.
dope, man. God, that's making it better. You know what? You are a better writer than that guy. Yes, everything ending, man.
Everything ending.
That's crazy.
So fucking-
Although Star Wars not technically ending. Although they did say they've announced that like after the episode 9, we're taking a bit of a break.
Right. And that this will be the end of the Skywalker saga, which has been the driving force of Star Wars when it's good ever since.
Right. High bar for them to clear now that Endgame has happened.
High bar to clear. But yes.
Which every faith that JJ will clear that bar. But it's like, if I'm JJ, I'm like, fuck.
God
after
damn.
Endgame, because you're like, Jesus, man, like fucking. And you can't hide behind the excuse of like, well, they had 10 years to build that up. It's like, hey, Star Wars has been around a minute. You know what I'm saying? Like,
maybe don't kill so many fucking people. But yeah, so Game of Thrones is also coming to an end. This episode was immense and blurry and dark.
yeah, it was. I mean, look, I understood like what they were going for and shit, and I understood like it worked beautifully in terms of like, hey, it's dark. Like,
War is confusing.
Yeah,
I know.
Especially at night, and this ain't the age of spotlights, and you need a witch to light up some swords and shit like that. So it's dark, and that's scary, man, because we want to present this as realistic as possible and shit. But the fucking show's got dragons in it, so at that point, realism really should go out the fucking door. Turn on a goddamn light so we can see the fucking battle.
Yeah, and like they shot for I think 57 days.
Ooh.
57 nights. And like you've done night shoots, you know what that fucks like. That just destroys your mind.
I don't think I've over the course of 25 years in filmmaking, I haven't done 20. How many nights?
57 nights.
I've never done 57 nights total, man. And it was in the snow?
Yeah.
That shit's not CG?
Yeah, like so cold. Apparently, it couldn't snow because it was too cold.
Didn't anybody tell these HBO people like effects and shit? Like fucking
You could build that indoors and nobody will know.
totally. They're like, no, we spent all that money on the dragons.
Yeah, that you can't see.
Yeah, and then we ran out of money. That's why one of the dragons got holes in his wings. That was fucked up. Watching the dragons fight.
It was fucked up because I wasn't sure which dragon was which and who's on what back.
It was a bit like watching a Michael Bay Transformers movie. You're like, I'm rooting for somebody, but I don't know which piece of metal is which.
I see wings and I see angry and I see somebody in a fur coat on his back and I don't know what's going on.
Totally. You know what? The bad one had snow all over him.
Fair. And so like the thing that I loved about the episode was that yes, it was like 75, 80 minutes of just pure combat, but that it never felt like the same kind of combat. Like every like 7 minutes it became a different thing. It was like, oh, we're doing a siege, we're doing horror out front where the Dothraki with their flaming swords ride off into the night. We never see what happens to them besides the swords go out.
Yeah.
Like super cool, eerie. And then it's a siege movie. And then it's like they're just at the gates and we're like throwing shit, we're lighting fires, we got a moat, we got a trench. Awesome. And then it's a zombie movie. And then it's literally they're just teaming over the walls and it becomes the zombies.
Then it's
are
a Brad
weathered.
Pitt zombie movie.
Totally. It's fat zombies. And then it's this like super tiny horror movie where there's Arya in the library and it's the raptor scene in Jurassic Park.
Those are the scenes where it's like, we ran out of money. Run around the hallways, kid.
We got a room. We got like 4 guys in suits. Go. And then it becomes like just this free for all. Just everything has gone awry. It becomes just a disaster movie by the end of it. And so the fact that they got you emotionally invested in the turns of a battle scene, because battle can just get boring after a while.
They said that in the after, I'm sure like most people, I watch the, after fucking Thrones where they talk to Benioff and Weiss and they always chit chat and they're always so serious and shit. Like so fucking deadly serious. Nobody's ever gone like, can you believe all this shit out of fucking dragons? Go nuts, But they're always just like, it's really important that Daenerys has this moment and shit like that. So I go in for it. I don't make fun of it. I'm like, you're right. Daenerys deserves this, Yeah. But in that, they were talking about like, if we had just done endless battle for 75 minutes, you'd get bored of that. And I was screaming at the screen, no, I wouldn't! But they're right. Like, it helps to break it up and do something for a minute and then go back to it.
Yeah. I mean, by the end of the episode, I realized 2 things: that Jon Snow still knows nothing and does nothing.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, he could not have been there at all and everything would have played out the way it does.
Yeah.
Like, he flew around a lot. He had a dragon that did what dragons do, which is blow fire on shit. He cut a bunch of
And
zombies.
she could always control those dragons. Like,
Yeah, that was fine.
Aquaman style. And
He
shit.
killed a bunch of zombies, which stood back up again because you knew they were gonna.
Yeah. And he'd done that before at Hardhelm or Helmhart or whatever.
Totally. And he did not kill a dragon.
The bad dragon.
The bad dragon.
Yeah. And you knew that one was bad.
I knew that was like he's the Indiana Jones of Game of Thrones. In that Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark does not do anything. In no way does he actually hamper the Nazis' plan.
That's right.
If he's not there, the Nazis still take that fucking Ark to that island and they open it and they die.
So he's just kind of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
He's just kind of like, wow. I want to see some shit. Like I want to see the world, man. I want to dig in some holes. Am I going to do anything? No.
Wow, you're right. Because like, it's just good marketing, man. Because the marketing was like, if Adventure has a name, it must be Indiana Jones and shit. You're like, fuck yeah. But now that I think about it, it's like, if Adventure has a name, it must be the Nazis. Because they're going to go on a journey and they're going to get the Ark of the Covenant. We're really watching the arc of their story. And shit.
Yeah.
Wow, that's weird. Twisted.
Yeah, the Nazis.
Thanks, Dad, for bringing me the Nazi movie.
So Jon Snow I was disappointed in because I want him to do more. But then again, his story functionally is kind of over now. Like his Jon Snow has always been about the White Walkers from the jump. It's I went to Castle Black, I'm on the wall.
Well, it was until they found out that Jon Snow was also fucking, the guy who's supposed to be sitting on the throne. So his story is just about to kick in.
It could.
Like, that's why I felt like it was okay. That's why I didn't feel like he should have fucking killed the Night King. Because, the next 3 episodes are all about who's going to wind up on the throne. And presumably, I'm not saying it's going to be him, but he's the one that's supposed to be on the throne. So his story's still going on.
It's still going, but he's not emotionally engaged in that part of his life.
Well, he may be now that the fucking White Walkers
He
are
could
dead.
be.
Like, I look forward to, they kind of set up. I don't know the books at all and shit, so I get to enjoy the TV show. But like, it's past the books at this point. So they're setting up this thing where he told, Danny the truth, where he's like, "You're my aunt, and we fucked." Ew. But which, by the way, he didn't say. I just want to point out for the record, and neither did she. There was no moment where they were like, "What, incest?"
Yeah, should we
it
not
was
do this
straight to the
anymore?
fucking throne. It's like, what do you mean you want my job? So, in that world where now that they don't have to worry about the Night King and the fucking whites and all that shit, like now he might have to worry about his life because there's a world where she's like, "Look, the throne is mine, Schwab." You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I felt like they might try to turn them against one.
They have to pivot to give him story because again, he's been all about like the coming war. We all have to band together or we're going to die alone. Blah 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 blah. I've got my fancy coat on. I got a dog. Let's go fight a war. And like I got to build all these armies. I got to stop the fucking White Walkers. I stopped the White Walkers. Now what do? I guess I got to fight over this throne, but I don't care really.
Right.
You're
not watching that show. I mean, they got 3 more episodes.
3
right?
more episodes.
Something's got to happen.
But
Unless it's like they sit around for 3 episodes, be like, "Remember when we fucking killed the Night King?"
Wasn't that fucking awesome?
Because that's what I'd be doing for the rest of my life. Like, oh my God, he was gonna fucking ruin it. Like, we were surrounded by the dead, and then that little fucking girl with no face stabbed this motherfucker right in the gut. Came out of nowhere, just
Like
it was awesome. How fucking tight
dude.
was it though when he grabbed her in the air and I was like, "You pieces of shit! If you're gonna fucking watch, you're gonna make me watch Arya Stark die when she was about to fuck you to death." And then when she dropped the thing, I was like, "Oh, she did that with Brianna Tarth. You're dead!" And they fucking, it was so fucking awesome, man. So fucking dope. And no, like they didn't cut to him for an expression of like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna die." Just pop, and they
ice
all
cubes.
fucking dropped. And the weird thing is, I'm a writer, so I should have known that was coming. And, like, they literally, fucking the witch is just like, "What do we say to the god of death?" She's like, "Not today." And when she goes like, "We've met before," she's like, "Yeah, and I told you." And she's like, "And you said I shut many eyes." And she's like, "I told you you'd close like fucking green eyes and fucking
Blue eyes
brown
and
eyes
blue
and
eyes.
blue eyes." And she ends on blue. And right there, the kid looks at her, and the kid had been like a little not scared, but like fucking like, "Holy shit, we are gonna die." Like she looked. Someone who's cool as a cucumber finally looked rattled. Like Arya was like, "Oh shit, you are gonna fucking meet death." And that moment where she's like blue eyes, that was her going like, you know me, and I know the future, and I'm fucking telling you right now that you kill someone with blue eyes. Who is that? And then she went and killed fucking Danny. No, she went and killed the Night King. And that calm falls over her when she fucking walks out of the room. So fucking metal. Because could you imagine if somebody told you, like, it's you? And you can believe that person. Like, you know, people in life are like, you can do it. And then you get killed and you're like, what the fuck? We're, you know, unfounded confidence. But like, you're talking to a witch who literally told you the future when you were a kid and she was fucking right. And that witch turns around and she's like, you're going to fucking, in code, she's like, you're going to kill the Night King. The first thing I would say is, just say it for real. Like, don't fucking make me play the word game here and shit. But second off, I'd be like, yes. And I would go off and do the same fucking thing. But watching him catch her, I was like, oh my God, they're going to fucking rip this from us. But man, they delivered. It was awesome.
I don't think I've ever been quite so happy to see a thing on a TV show. Like, just my face was this weird rictus grin of joy. I was like,
I was so worried. I was like, I turned at one point to my wife. I was like, they've painted themselves into a corner. Like, how do you get out of this? And she don't even watch the show. And even she looked at me like the little girl. And I was like, oh yeah.
You're right. You know, the little girl we've been following for like 7 seasons who's built herself from a tiny little nothing in the middle of Winterfell to a fucking assassin.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that Mary Sue is going to get it all done. Fucking morons. Like, do you watch the show?
Why? Somebody said that?
Oh, yeah. Because, you know, the internet. The internet is full of shitty people who are like, Arya's a Mary Sue. She hasn't earned her power. She's overpowered for who she is. Like, motherfuckers, have you watched the goddamn show?
I was going to say, like, have they watched the same show that we have watched?
No, apparently not.
And what?
They said the same thing about Lyanna Mormont.
They said Lyanna Mormont couldn't kill the giant?
Yeah.
I don't buy that. I mean, like, number one, I don't go in for that argument, period. But number two, it's like, we watched, the whole fucking show is about watching this little girl become the person who has to kill the Night King. Like, I don't think, it didn't come out of nowhere. I wasn't like, it's not like they were like fucking Samwell Tarly killed the Night King and shit. Which, to be fair, he did kill the first fucking White Walker that we ever saw. So maybe, you know, somewhere Samwell Tarly's like, fuck you, Silent Bill. But, you know, I don't know. I didn't bump into that one iota. No. But I didn't also bump into Rey being a fucking Jedi or anything like that either.
Yeah. I mean, then again, that's an entire saga built upon Luke Skywalker suddenly being able to blow up a fucking Death Star when he piloted one ship one time back home.
Yeah.
Like, he's like the king of Mary Sue's, if you're going to do that. And if you're not going to do it, then
King
don't
of
do
Mary Sue's. That's a fucking excellent name for a high school punk rock band. Yeah, man, fuck, that was a fantastic episode. Just like, and in the same weekend as Endgame, which I didn't think anything could be nearly as entertaining as Endgame, and fucking Game of Thrones did satisfy.
Hell yeah.
I don't know. I mean, thankfully, nobody's like, which did you like better? Like, that's just like, which do you like better, sex or head? It's all fucking good. They were both stunning fucking achievements in pop culture, in culture in general, but particularly for shit that like we've liked our whole fucking lives.
Yeah. And they're both like the accumulated story that we have with those stories. Neither of those two pieces of entertainment work unless you've been riding with those stories for years.
Yeah.
Like, you don't come to, like, fucking, you know, The Long Night and be like, oh, I've heard this Game of Thrones show is interesting. Tell me what's happening here, sir. Like, none of it fucking means anything.
Right.
Unless you saw Bran pushed out a fucking window and The Things We Do for Love, and you're like, oh, I gotta see where this goes.
Yeah.
You know, Endgame doesn't mean anything unless you know the first time that Tony Stark says, I am Iron Man. Like, none of that shit plays unless you have been with it for as long as we've been with it. Unless it's earned our love and paid that love back in dividends.
Very true.
And so, yeah, fuck it. Like, I think that like, The Long Night is a good episode with an amazing fucking ending, but that ending only works because I know the rest of the story.
Do you think that's true of Endgame? Does Endgame work as a movie without knowing any of the other Marvel movies? Like, if you went in cold, if Endgame was your first movie, could you enjoy it?
I don't think so. If you hadn't seen, I mean, at the very least, you would have had to seen Infinity War. Because if you haven't seen that, you don't know why everybody's fucking sad.
Right.
Like, why is... Man, this is so fucking depressing.
These people are such bummers. Why?
Yeah. I mean, it's just a Tuesday, guys.
I thought they had
know.
superpowers. Why are they all pissy?
But yeah, no, that's...
Wait, so the internet's mad about Arya Stark fucking killing the Night King, which
Yes.
I have not bumped into. How weird. Is the internet fucking mad that a chance...
The answer to that is always yes.
Well done, Nate. Is the internet mad that a rat is the true hero of Endgame? That random rat that walks across the van in the San Francisco locker? Like, if that doesn't happen, none of this shit happens.
The internet would be way more upset if it was a lady rat.
Oh, you saucy, satirical bitch. So true. All right, we've talked about those. Let's do a little piece of news, and then we got to talk about some sad stuff.
Yeah.
A little piece of news is happy stuff, because it's
Happy
not
stuff.
only just a cool fucking concept. And again, we live in this age of fucking magic and wonder where you're seeing shit you never imagined you'd see on the big screen. Suicide Squad, to be directed by James Gunn, who, as we've talked about before, was off of Guardians 3, then got this job doing Suicide Squad. Then Marvel said, please come back. And he said, I will, but I'm still going to make Suicide Squad first, which is such a classy fucking move. Or a real big fuck you move. Either way.
Right. Or I like to get paid twice.
Yeah. Or, like, I'm going to be the first director to walk between two worlds. Or no, he's not, because Whedon, no, what do you mean, JJ? Joss Whedon did a DC and a Marvel, that's right. Or a quarter, well, he did a quarter DC, right? Like, he didn't do all of it. He kind of came in on top of Zach. He hasn't done a standalone DC movie, has he? But still, he has, who?
Ooh.
Wow, that's so fucking true, man. That's X-Men and Superman. Are we allowed to say Bryan Singer anymore? Let's just leave that over there.
Yes.
But good
Huge
point,
show.
as somebody who's walked between two worlds, man. Yes, let's leave that there. But it sounds like James is going to be the first one to walk between the modern Marvel world. We're doing that thing that Variety does. Like, this is the best opening on a Tuesday in 1983. Like, very specific. To walk between the Marvel Cinematic Universe world and the DC Cinematic Universe world and do two complete films himself and not just be coming.
And also, even more, to then go back. Like, I think that's the
Yes,
trick.
that's
it's
tricky.
They start at Marvel, go DC, then back to Marvel. Usually it's a like sort of persona non grata once you abandon ship. But
He
produced.
produced Brightburn, and I think one of his relatives have his name on
Like a
script. I
cousin
saw
or
a
a-
name other than his name that said Gunn on the project. But that movie looks amazing. Brightburn, Jesus, man. Like the reverse Superman, Dark Superman. What if Superman was naughty? All right, so we talked about that just so we can humble brag about a friend of ours. Dave DeSmolchin, the lovely individual who's been on our show. And also, you know him from like a zillion fucking movies and shit. And he's in a zillion more movies. He's in Dune this year. He's in Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. But he's also just got this huge gig in Suicide Squad.
Yes.
Playing fucking, of all characters, one that I never imagined we'd ever fucking see, like on the big screen, Polka Dot Man. It's a deep cuts fucking DC Batman villain, one of the kookiest and stupidest and shit. But like that just hearing that they've got Polka Dot Man in the movie made me triply excited for the James Gunn vision of the Suicide Squad. I enjoyed the first one, David Ayer's version, but James is like just a fucking genius savant when it comes to weirdness. Like, never mind the Guardian shit. Look at Slither and shit like that. Look at his shit that got him the Marvel jobs. He's just real clever and creepy and shit like that. So I look forward to his version of Squad. I think it's going to be so, like, what's that thing where you're like, hey man, I'm fucking undercutting the mainstream.
Subversive.
Thank you.
You beat me there.
Who needs a fucking app? Yes, subversive. I think it's going to be more subversive than the first one. I think it's going to be a superhero movie and stuff, but I think it's going to have a subversive streak running through it. And then I guess that's kind of what Guardians has running to it, but I think he's going to be able to up the ante with Suicide Squad because Guardians is a PG-13 movie, and Suicide Squad probably going to be an R, right?
Could be.
First one was.
Yeah.
Can't imagine that he's like, I'm signing up for the PG-13 version of this.
I mean, then again, Warner Brothers might say, we're making a PG-13 version of this.
Oh, and that might be the mandate.
It could be. But I also think that there's a chance to make it a more balanced movie without Will Smith. Because Will Smith always threw off the dynamics of that team.
Explain.
Because Will Smith demands things that a movie star demands, which is screen time, and it has to be about me, and I need a backstory, and in some faction, this movie needs to revolve around me and my ego. Which, to be fair, you're Will Smith, and I get it. But if you take that out of the scenario, you can have like a Dirty Dozen, where none of these motherfuckers are movie stars. They're all just actors. They're all just great actors, and they all can serve the story you needed to serve. Without your movie star being like, yeah, no, this is great, but I want to have a daughter. Why do you need a fucking daughter? You're Deadshot. Because
to be fair, Floyd Lawton did have a kid.
Yeah, but it didn't need to be about his kid.
No. But do you remember the miniseries? When in the comics, years ago, I remember fucking reading this and being like, this is one of the things that resold me on comic books. I got out of comics when I went to high school and shit. And then Walter Flanagan was the guy that got me back into comics after high school. And he was like, Deadshot was one of his favorite characters. He's like, read this fucking miniseries. It's so fucked up. Like, his kid gets killed. And I was like, what? That's how you sell this comic book and shit? And it was compelling as fuck. He had a kid and the kid got killed. And that's why, that's not what made him a killer. He was already a fucking killer. That just happened in the process of the story. But it was some real nice touch to it. So when they did a kid in the movie, first I was like, oh my God, protect that child at all costs, because I know what's going to happen. But they didn't go that route. But you're right, that's true. They probably wouldn't have included that if it was just a random person, not Will Smith.
If it just gets to be Task Force X and it just gets to be a bunch of guys doing bad shit, even though they're worse people, cool.
But Will Smith is what gets you to Suicide Squad, right? Like, do you think they make that movie without Will Smith the first time? Like, he was the green light, I would imagine. He was the biggest movie star in the fucking thing. And it would have been something that made a studio feel safe. Like, all right, this is an untried property. It's not Batman or Superman or fucking Wonder Woman, but let's give it a shot. If Will Smith's in it, it'll work out.
Maybe. Although I could also say, and not that I really want more Jared Leto Joker, but it actually could have been about Joker and Harley Quinn if you don't have to shoehorn in a bunch of fucking Deadshot story. But that's neither here nor there, because Jared Leto wasn't good at it, and the movie's not great, but we get another one anyway.
I saw him, or did I see him, like a picture of him getting ready for Morbius, the vampire?
Oh, I didn't see that.
I think I saw like some shot of him, a beard or facial hair, and said, I didn't know if they were shooting that movie or not. Is that a Marvel movie?
It's Sony. It's one of those like in association.
Oh, it's a Spider-Verse Marvel movie and shit. Doesn't have Kevin Feige's blessing or touch yet.
I mean,
let me tell you something. After fucking 10 years of Marvel movies and that Endgame movie, Kevin Feige should run for president. Who the fuck wouldn't vote for him, man? I mean, I'm sure it'd be a huge drop in pay and prestige, but like, God damn it, to make that shit work, that guy had a fucking plan. I'll take 8 years with that fucking cat in a heartbeat, man. How sweet. When the boys came over the other night, one of them had watched my review. Which one was it?
It was Steven. It was McFeely.
Steven was referencing it, and then Chris was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, Kevin reviewed the movie. It's like an hour long, and he cries all throughout it and shit. And he goes, and Kevin watched it. And I was like, you damn Skippy, Kevin watched it. Kevin watches everything he does. Kevin's his own biggest fan. And he goes, no, not you, Kevin. Kevin Feige watched it. And I was like, even though I know I know Kevin, I was like, Kevin Feige knows my name? Like, I was so delighted. He was like, he watched it. I was like, did he say? He said he loved it. And I was like, oh my God.
Papa, can you hear me?
It shouldn't even be that surprising, right? Because like, he's a geek just like us and stuff. He has similar interests in the stuff that we have an interest in. But we were talking about his baby.
Yes.
And I guess he popped in to make sure that we weren't like, it was all right.
I mean, whatever.
No, fucking, yeah, he got a love letter off of that fucking video for sure. Man, but now I'm on to something. That motherfucker should run for president. And I'm not even saying like, fuck Trump. I'm just saying like, I'd vote for that guy in a fucking heartbeat. Like, he gave us Marvel movies. I can count on him, you know? And if he just ran on a platform of more Marvel movies, oh my God, I'm like president for life. I want that man to be kept alive at all fucking costs until I fucking pass away. Then he can die. But like fucking as long as he's alive in this world and as long as I'm alive in this world, I want him alive making fucking entertainment. Those movies make me So unbelievably fucking happy. He is one of my favorite creators on the planet because I know, like, he didn't direct, he didn't write, but he directed and wrote the entire fucking arc, man. He had the vision. He was the guy that believed in shit. Like, especially when it's easy to fucking go now, like this movie opened at 1.3 billion, but let me take you back to fucking Iron Man. When they announced that they're doing Iron Man, the whole world didn't get a huge fucking hard on or get super wet and be like, oh my God. They were just like, Iron Man? Huh. Which one is he? Because Iron Man wasn't really like a fucking top tier A-list character. In Marvel Comics, he was one of their flagship and stuff, but like even in sales, nobody was fucking with the Iron Man anymore and shit. It was a Wolverine fucking world by then. So when they announced Iron Man as a movie, it wasn't like, this is going to be amazing. People were like, oh, that'll be cute. And then that summer, Iron Man comes out. And it's an incredibly special film. This movie is held up to every fucking viewing I've ever... It's a perfect film. There's nothing wrong with it. It's Star Wars imaginative and wonderful. Like, true family entertainment, but fucking could work if you're not a kid as well. Excellent fucking film. Why did I bring that up? I got lost in my own story.
Feige, it must be.
Feige. People weren't that excited, thank you. So when Iron Man comes out, they weren't like fucking, the whole world wasn't like, show us your iron dick and shit. They were just like, oh, Iron Man, maybe it'll be something. Robert Downey Jr., is he okay? Like, it wasn't like a fucking like sure bet. So Dark Knight comes out like a few months after Iron Man. Iron Man comes out and you're shocked at how fucking good it is. You're like, holy shit, Iron Man's a really good fucking movie, man. Good job, guys. And then 2 months later, Dark Knight came out and everyone forgot Iron Man because they're like, the fucking Joker is cool again, you know? And suddenly fucking that was it. They sucked all the air out of the room. And then quietly, like, they were like, look, we made a bunch of money. We know we're doing the right thing. Good for the Dark Knight and shit. They've got their thing. We're doing something different over here. We're doing something a little lighter. We got an idea. We think it could work. We got the Hulk next. We got some other things cooking and shit. Grew it from that, from a property that wasn't guaranteed. Took it all the way to this $1.3 billion opening. That's storytelling. You know what I'm saying? And some people be like, that's business. Bullshit. That's a guy who loved these characters as much as all of us did and said, why couldn't they have really great movies about these characters? These characters have been working 30, 40, 50 fucking years. Like, this is tried and true. When you look at superheroes in costumes in movies, this is something we talked about with Marcus and McFeely. Like, you got to think back to the X-Men where they'd make jokes about how they wouldn't wear the fucking costumes. Like, what do you want us to wear? Brown spandex or whatever? Yellow spandex? Like, because they were wearing, you know, fucking Matrix black outfits and shit. So slowly that changed. Now your heroes look like your heroes from the comic books and shit. Marcus and McFeely were going like, that's Kevin. That has everything to do with Kevin. They were like, Kevin's point was always like, these characters are tried and true. This IP has been around for a long time and everybody knows what they look like. Why the fuck would you change what they look like? Makes no sense. Make it look like the books. That's what I love. I love the look of Thor. So we got Thor that looked kind of close to Thor. You know, it's nuts that they actually did it.
Yeah, there's an exchange.
Except for the recent Thor.
Right.
Which I would argue might be my favorite Thor. It was the first time I looked up on the screen and looked at Thor and I was like, my God, I look better than Thor. I like that he was schlubby, man. It gave us dad bod people somebody to be like, that's my hero. I'm just like him.
There's an exchange in Steve Jobs. Why I'm talking about this, we'll get there. Where Steve Wozniak asks...
Oh, the movie Steve Jobs.
The movie Steve Jobs. You know, you're not a programmer, you're not a designer. Why? What do you do?
Yeah.
And he says, well, I once talked to the conductor of the San Francisco, orchestra, and I asked him, like, what is it that you do? You don't play anything. I said, well, I play the orchestra. The orchestra is my instrument. Like, Kevin Feige is the conductor of the Marvel Universe. He's not a writer, he's not a director, but he tells these stories using that entire brain trust as his instrument. And, like, here's the story I think we're going to tell. Tell it. You got to play your first violin the way you're going to play your first violin. But I know the guy who'll play it the way that'll harmonize with what's happening with the dude over there and the timpani and the dude over there on the fucking cello. Like, I have it in my head how all of this is going to sound when it's great. You just have to trust me and give me all of your money.
King And after what they've done, I'll give them money for the rest of my life. I don't even care if like one day the movies started to become really like fucking bad or something. I'd be like, you know what? For 10 years of happy fucking memories that I can still enjoy today, because I can watch any one of those Marvel movies from now until the day you die. They'll still be entertaining. I've been watching Iron Man for 10 fucking years. It's never gotten bad. I've never been like, oh, I could skip this fucking scene. I even like, but to be fair, take it with a grain of salt, I like Iron Man 2 very much as well. And most people are like, you're alone there, buddy.
Yeah. It's a giant grain of salt.
To me, it was just more that, you know, it was the closest thing to a quote-unquote sequel that they've ever done. You know, in the Marvel Universe, all the movies kind of weren't really sequels. They moved the ball forward and told new stories and shit and spread the universe. But Iron Man 2 really felt like Rocky 2. It was just like, did you like the guy in the metal suit? Here's fucking more. You know, they weren't necessarily like we're building a universe here. They were trying and shit, but they were like, you know, let's make this movie right here. But I even like that movie.
All of this is to say, congrats, Dave Dismalchin, for getting cast in Suicide
It
Squad.
is, man. Huge gig for Dave. That's awesome. And that means we'll get inside info on the movie.
Yeah,
as
we'll
well.
bring him back.
So if you hear any inside dope from us on Suicide Squad, you know where it came from.
And the
Dave right now is desperately signing an NDA.
Yes, like you can't talk to them.
Yeah.
The last piece of news is the sad piece of news.
Yeah.
Which is Monday. John Singleton's family took him off life support after suffering what seemed to have been a catastrophic stroke, and he died at 51.
I mean, all of that sucks. There's not a piece of that intro that was good. John Singleton was like us. He was way into this shit. When I first met him, like all I wanted to do was talk about Boys in the Hood because it was influential for me, and all he wanted to talk about was comics. Because he's like, I know you like comic books. He goes, what about a Luke Cage movie? And I was like, fuck yes. Are you going to do that? He's like, I'm trying to do it. Like every time I talked to him, he was working on a comic book themed project and shit. An incredibly talented man who made, and this is going to sound weird because I'm obviously not an African-American filmmaker, but like he opened doors for people like me. And that is to say outsiders. You know what I'm saying? I know he uplifted the race and opened the doors for other, first, Academy Award nominated?
Yeah. He was the first African American to be nominated for Best Director or Best Screenplay.
So history making there. But beyond that community is also just, he wasn't to the manner born. He's a film school kid. And his story, if I remember correctly, was like, you know, some agent came to speak at the school and at USC where he attended. And, you know, he was like, I got a script. Like, I don't need advice. I got a project right here. Got himself an agent, and that was Robert Newman. Robert Newman got a script into Columbia, I think. And Columbia was like, we're going to make this movie because this is a raw, hard-hitting look at a world that, like, we pay people to try to make pretend. So this is beautiful. We're going to take this in. And made a history-making film. So to watch an outsider become an insider and then be respected and get fucking nominated for the highest awards in our fucking business and shit, that's another person that gives you permission, like makes you think it's possible. You're like, okay, he's not likely either. So if the unlikely can get in, maybe I could get in too. So I loved the Boys in the Hood Laserdisc. I would listen to his commentary track all the time and shit like that because he also sounded like me, young, and also like our cultural references were the same. And that's important. You see somebody go before you, you're like, hey, they're kind of like me. If they did it, maybe I could fucking do it too. So I loved meeting him and shit. And we weren't fucking like super friends or anything like that. But whenever we saw each other, it was really fucking warm and wonderful. And when I heard he had the stroke, I was like, wow, he's incredibly young, man. I'm sure he'll pull through. And then all of a sudden this news broke. And it was beyond heartbreaking. 51 kids is, I say this as somebody who's 48, that's nothing. Like, it's way too fucking young. And he wasn't an unhealthy human being. No. Like, it's not like, oh, he fucking loved cheeseburgers and fucking cocaine. As far as I knew, none of that. Like, he was pretty clean tin whistle guy. So I don't, you know, it's just, genetics, of course, plays a big part and stuff. It's just one of those commercials for like, go get yourself checked out at midlife, because if a guy who looks as healthy as John could be taken down, I mean, same thing. This is what happened to Luke Perry, right? Yeah, he had a stroke that put him into a coma and then didn't recover.
Yeah. I mean,
My dad had a stroke, but he lived. I always thought strokes were debilitating, but I didn't know they were lethal.
it depends. I mean, it's a storm in your brain that just like starts to short circuit shit, and depending on the size of the stroke, you can recover from it. You can rehabilitate some of those neural pathways, and you know the part of you that I got a friend whose dad had a stroke and he lost like most of the left side of his body. But physical therapy and time, and like you can eventually gain some of that use back. But if it strikes you like a fucking lightning bolt, then it's just like, I don't know what we can do. The only thing to do is to make him comfortable, I guess.
So somebody had to make a decision to pull him off life support.
Yeah.
They were like,
This is what it's going to be.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, so fucking sad,
Yeah.
and just like shocking, and like, you know, he was just here, like that kind of thing. Like, and he worked on
Snowfall.
Yeah.
Was his show on FX, all about.
And didn't he also do the but also he did didn't he do episodes of OJ, People versus OJ or something like that?
Yeah, like he became, because you know making a movie is a difficult thing to do. Like he, in his career, which spanned about 25 years, he made less than 10 of them.
Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, because it's fucking hard to get a movie made, even if your first movie out of the gate is Boys in the Hood. You know, like it's difficult to do. Even if you're changing the face of the culture, it's difficult to do. You know, even if you make a Fast and the Furious movie, which he did, it's difficult to do.
Which one?
Too Fast, Too Furious.
He did that was the first sequel?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But like, you know, the way black film especially had looked when Boys in the Hood came out was you never went to California. Like the way black film was always, it was New York, because Spike was the sort of like the touchstone person.
Right.
And the first time you got to look into, here's LA, here's what it feels like on the ground from this perspective, it's the first time anybody had seen that.
Yeah.
And I saw some interview where he referred to himself as the first black film brat. Because he was like, you know, Spike came before me and did all of the fucking, like he burst all the doors open, and before him was Gordon Parks, and before him was Melvin Van Peebles. Like there was a lineage of like barrier breakers who did so much fucking hard work. And by the time I got there, I got to make things that made me happy. You know, that I could chase whims when I wanted to. Like I want to do a thing about this fucking girl who's a poet. I want to do a thing about 3 guys who go to school at a black college for the first time. I want to do a Fast and the Furious movie. Like I could make things that made me happy, and I did not have to worry about breaking down so many of those barriers. And then I could pull other people up behind me because it hadn't been as hard for me as it was for them. And so just that sense of he understood his place in the business and how he was the first of not many, but the first of some, and the responsibility he felt to help make more than just him.
That Boys in the Hood movie is a real star maker as well, man. Think about it. Cuba Gooding Jr., Ice Cube's first real acting role, Regina King, right? Morris Chestnut. Like all people that are still fucking working.
Yeah, totally. And then Lawrence Fishburne, Angela Bassett.
Who? Yeah, no, Lawrence Fishburne, Angela Bassett. Yeah, man. Like, well, they were working before.
They were working before, but even
But
still,
they never stopped. Yeah.
They never stopped. No, it's.
Oh my God! Both of them wound up in Marvel movies. He was in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and she's in Black Panther.
Yep.
Circle of life.
Always a fucking circle of life. But yes, gone too soon. Probably had lots more stories to tell.
Yeah. It's just weird. Like I'm going too far to say like he was a mentor, but he was definitely. He's in my DNA. That sounds sexy, but it's not. It doesn't mean that. It's without him doing what he does, I don't know if I ever wind up doing what I do, but I do know that what I wound up doing was informed by his journey and what he did. So he is in my creative DNA. You know, it's like when I watch the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, I've been cutting it and stuff. And so as I watch the movie, I'm like, where'd this fucking come from and shit? And there are things I see periodically where I'm like, oh, that's Bad News Bears. Like, this is in my DNA. It's just, this is how I see the world and shit. His movie, and that Laserdisc particularly, and his story about being an outsider who, against all odds, fucking made his mark, told his fucking story, sang his song, is in my DNA to this day. And so when I heard that he passed, it was pretty powerful considering like we weren't thick as thieves. I was like, oh my God, no. Like, because I thought we were very close in age, and we were. But that it hit me in a weird, hard way, man. It's a loss, a real big loss. Is there any more details about it? Are there any more details about it?
That's all I'd heard.
Yeah, fuck, and he never got to make his comic book movie. That's the really sad thing, man. Like, he was a true believer in this shit long before it was profitable or popular. He was trying, I mean, like he said, the closest he got to making his comic book movie was Shaft. He's like, it's kind of the same thing. He's just not wearing a mask. So, still though, he would have handled the Marvel character really, really well. It's a bummer, man. Let's give it up for one of the great ones, man, John Singleton. It goes in a weird way, life, ladies and gentlemen. So, in honor of John, for the next week, figure out what you want to do and do it. John doesn't have the chance to do that anymore. So that's what should come from all death. Yes, grief, especially if we know the people, but it should always, every death should be a reminder that like you got shit to do and you do not have all the time in the world to do it. So get cracking, kids. That being said, we're jumping into the second part of the show, ladies and gentlemen, and that is the Q&A part of the show. Man, that's where we turn to you, the audience, and find out what you want to know, man. JC has a microphone.
ScreenX tickets.
ScreenX tickets?
ScreenX tickets tonight.
4DX.
Not 4DX. Oh, beautiful. So we got some swag to give away and stuff. As per usual, Brett Deacon gave us tickets, but this time it's not 4DX, it's ScreenX. What is ScreenX, the difference?
Giant wraparound.
Oh, it's where the movie gets even wider and shit like that. You're like, you like wide movies? Well, look at this. And it just keeps going and shit.
So much girth.
So we've got tickets thick with 2 C's. We've got so much fucking, so many tickets to give away thanks to Brett Deacon and the good folks. ScreenX is owned by the same people who do 4DX? Yes, correct, right?
You're all.
So thanks to those folks. They always give us tickets to give away. To you, the question askers. Now, anyone can ask a question. All we ask, though, is that whoever asks a question, you have to ask something that both me and Mark can answer. So don't just ask something like fucking, what's Jay like in real life? Like, ask him yourself. He's in the parking lot. But it's more about something we can both discuss. You do that, and you're going to win some tickets to ScreenX. And what's this?
I'm not sure.
This is free Westeros swag?
Game of Thrones swag.
Right on. So we got some Game of Thrones fucking swag.
3 shirts.
3 shirts and 5 sets of tickets.
Button and a ring.
Ooh, nice. All right, so you're going to win a tickets and a shirt, or tickets and some gack.
Jewelry.
Yeah, you're going to get something for nothing, and that's the important part. JC, it's his place. We send him around with a microphone, and he picks people. And we got our first person. What's your name?
Celine.
Celine. Everyone give it up for Celine, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey.
First of all, this is such a pleasure. Thank you so much. My question would be, if either of you were asked to play a Marvel character in a future MCU movie, cameo or whatever, which one would you think you'd pull off the best?
Do you know something I don't? Because the way you got me real excited the way you said it. If you were ever in a Marvel movie, which you may be.
I don't know.
All right,
maybe.
so wait, read it again. What is the question specifically?
If either one of you were asked to play a Marvel character in a future MCU movie,
yes.
It could be a cameo, it could be a CGI character, it could be anybody. Who would you think you would be able to pull off the best?
Could it be somebody that is already in a movie, or does it have to be somebody who's brand new?
It has to be somebody brand new. It can't be someone like Krog or something. Like, you have to be like a new character that hasn't been introduced yet. So this is your character that you have to make your own.
MCU?
MCU, specifically. If you want to go more broader, you can do that too if you want, like DC, but specifically MCU.
I feel like
Going forward, I mean, I don't know if they're going to be bringing,
I want to like say, ooh, MODOK, but I know.
You know what? I had a feeling.
I know that.
No, wait. I had a weird feeling you would say that. I'm not even.
But I'm not going to pick it because I don't want to steal it from Patton Oswalt. That's his fucking dream. So not MODOK, but here.
Patton Oswalt already has a character though in Agents of Shield.
That's yeah. Oh yeah, kind of. But there's one coming. I think. Well, the Daredevil Netflix show, which is now defunct, they didn't ever recognize in the movies, which means they could conceivably do movie Daredevil. So if they were doing movie Daredevil, then I would like to be Foggy Nelson.
I like that.
There's a rich history. Favreau played him once in a movie. He's a director and shit, and then his career blew up. So maybe if I played him, I could direct a fucking live-action remake of The Great Mouse Detective or something like that. I get to make jokes. He gets to make billions. Anyway, I would do that. I'm not gonna pick a hero and shit, but I would, Foggy Nelson. You'd be in a good chunk of scenes, and you probably have to give the hero the pep talk and shit like that. And plus, his secret, so you get to play that, and you get to be funny and shit. That's all in my wheelhouse. Anything else where they'd be like, you got to work out. I'm like, fuck you. So, Foggy Nelson, you?
I'm trying to rack my brain for tubby black dudes. That
Fucking
are
movie,
not,
man. They make people young in those movies, so
I
they
mean,
could do
like
anything.
Krog
man.
was like a giant rock man. You don't have to be.
No, I'm like, and there's already an M'Baku who. M'Baku is for me what Fat Thor is to you. Which is like, you can be a little thick and still get it done. I'm gonna go Mojo.
Ooh, from fucking Long Shot,
Yeah.
Mojo?
Yeah.
What a great call.
Yeah, because I can be all fucking CG, and
Yeah.
that's all good. And yeah, it just seems like it'd be fun. I'll do that.
Can I change my answer? I want to be Lockheed.
Ooh.
The dragon, yeah, because then I don't even have to show up to work. I'm just doing a voice and shit like that.
Also, he
Yeah.
doesn't say anything.
And I'm like Vin
He's
Diesel.
Silent
I show
Dragon.
up to every premiere and I only said I am Groot once in all of Endgame and shit.
I mean, yeah, that counts. I
That
never.
doesn't count. You know what counts? That question was excellent. You fucking win. Give it up for her, ladies and gentlemen. Great job, man. Give it up. All right, JC, where are we going next?
Sam Wilson, what's up, baby?
How you doing, man?
Is your name Sam?
No, my name is Rashad.
What is it?
Rashad.
Rashad. Everyone give it up for Rashad. Sam Wilson.
That was a nice pull, Mark. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, thank you.
What's your question, Rashad? Fire away.
Oh, shit,
Sure.
he's got notes.
I know. I wanted to write it out because I was really nervous.
All right.
I first want to thank you, Kevin and Mark, for taking time out of your busy schedules to regularly share your experiences as both fans and pop culture and professionals in the entertainment industry. I imagine a handful of us are creators here in this lovely bar, and many more who watch and listen to these wonderful podcast episodes put every ounce of energy into our artwork, which fills us with cathartic joy. With every new episode of Fat Man Beyond, you two prove that a plan to make a living by doing something that we love is neither impossible nor impractical. Excuse me. I just want to say thank you again. And at the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate everything you guys do. Just watching you just gives me so much confidence. And with that, I'd like to ask you, if it's possible, 3 questions.
Ooh. You, after that beautiful soliloquy, you could ask me for head, and I'd be like, all right.
My mom is here, so maybe not.
Fair enough. Mine too. All right, fair enough. That's lovely. Absolutely. Ask 3 away.
Great, thank you. The first 2 is what advice would you give to an aspiring writer, director, and producer who's attempting to break into the industry? And may I give you 2 my resume?
You can have. Wait, that's the first question?
The first question, the first question
It's a
is
couplet.
what's your advice, and 2 is may I give you my resumes?
And then there's a third.
Yes.
Look at that. Anticipation. All right, first one is, let's do the resume. You can absolutely give us your resume. What was the first question again? That takes longer thought.
The first question was, what advice would you give to an aspiring writer, director, and producer who's attempting to break into the industry?
Okay, that one is always my standard advice, which is the only currency that you have in this life as a creative entity is your voice. Or as not just a creative entity, as a human being, is your voice. It's absolutely fucking yours. It's your voice is your currency. That's the thing you get to spend. A lot of people come out here and they try to sheep it up and do what's popular and like, what are they doing? That's successful. I want you to do that. Best chances of success aren't based on mimicry. It's based on you jumping into a room and saying something nobody's ever heard before and like, holy shit, that's fucking new. Let's try that. Let's do that. So even though conventional wisdom would tell you to like do something tried and true because if it's worked before, it could work again and stuff, I always kind of I'd rather die on the cross of like, you've never seen this before. Like, you know, like it or not, like it's yoga hosers. But like, you know, some people will be like, holy shit, that's original. And some people will be like, goodbye again, you know, and fucking take off and shit. But at the end of the day, I look at that thing and I'm like, I love it. It's exactly what I wanted it to be. It's my voice. It reeks of me, you know, which means like that works in both ways. It's great if it's all you and it's bad if it's all you because if they don't like you, they're not going to like anything of that. But that's all I got to give in this world is me. Like that's the only thing that's any value. My opinion, my point of view, my perspective, my story. So I say tell your story at all costs. Don't worry. Don't ever listen to somebody say like, that's not what people want. Nobody fucking knows what anybody fucking wants, ever. So everything is an open possibility so long as you're bringing something to the table that nobody else has ever heard before, and that's your voice. That's what you've got. The whole life you've lived, everything you've fucking done, that's valuable, and they have not put it up on the screen, presumably, unless you're like, no, my life is exactly like Endgame. You know, no, probably not. So you're going to be able to bring them something they had never seen before. That's the only reason I'm standing in a fucking bar talking to people in Hollywood. Something that if you had told me in my early 20s, like one day you're going to be doing that, I'll be like, do I blow dudes in the bathroom? Like, why am I in a bar and shit? But like the notion that like there is no fucking set future, that every day there's a different way to find an angle in, to find a way to have a new conversation, to be like, I'm going to take this thing that I love and I'm going to fucking try to make a living off of it and shit. Live and die by your voice. You know, that's what you bring to the table. So write the thing that you feel like, this is what I want to do. Even if people are like, yeah, that, like fucking do it. If it ain't that one, it's the next one. But here's the thing, this is my position on it. You can't guarantee success beyond anybody but yourself. You could fucking make yourself so happy and make the perfect movie for you. And that is, or anything, book, fucking whatever, song, fucking blanket, whatever you're fucking making. You could make it perfect for you to the point where you're like, this is exactly what I want it to be. People won't see it necessarily the same way, right? You can't guarantee anyone's going to show up or pay for it or whatever the fuck. So in that world, make it the thing you want it to be. Because then at least you're totally satisfying 100% one person. The person who will have to live with it for the rest of their fucking lives. Because other people may consume it, move on to other shit. But you will carry it like fucking herpes to the grave. So just make sure it's yours, man. And it says who you are, because maybe it works, maybe it don't. Maybe it's fucking, like, maybe it's Mallrats. Mallrats came out and everyone was like, fuck you. And then 10 years later, people are like, you're a genius. So it's like, maybe you just fucking wait and it catches up. At the end of the day, you did you. So, and it speaks volumes about who you are. Maybe it gets you another job. Maybe people are like, that movie was my favorite thing. That book was my favorite thing ever. What else are you fucking doing or interested in? Nothing bad ever came from doing your stuff. You know what I'm saying? From trying to express your voice. So do that at all costs. That's always my best advice. You.
No, yeah, for sure. And after you do that, do it again. And do it again. And do it again. Like, always be making something. You know, like the one thing you can do, especially if you're a writer, that doesn't need any money to do this shit, is keep going. Because the thing that will happen is you'll get better at it. Even if you're not trying to, almost by accident, you will just make enough mistakes along the way to not make those mistakes and make new ones. Then when you just make those new ones, you'll find a way to be better at the thing you wanted to do. Iteration is what it's all about. Because yes, there's absolutely the people who have their one great story to tell and tell it, and then like, what do I do now? Like, great, the next one. because it's all about the next one. And if nobody buys the first one, nobody buys the second one, somebody's going to buy the third one or the fourth one or the fifth one. And you'll be like, hey, you like that? Look at this fucking barn full of shit that I have back here that I've been making while I've been waiting for you to get right with me. It's always be doing it, always be getting better at it, because we always can be better at it. And you only do that, not by reading books, not by listening to podcasts, although a couple of them are kind of cool, but it's by making the fucking thing. And so keep making the thing. And if you're a filmmaker, make the fucking thing. If you're a podcaster, make the fucking thing. If you're a writer, make the fucking thing. And make that thing true to who you are.
I love it. Give it up for Mark. That was beautiful. That's one. That's two. What's the third question?
The third one was, I think that most comic book tropes have been implemented in different movies very well. I think The Dark Knight is probably one of the strongest examples of how the hero and the villain are two sides of the same coin. I think Richard Donner's Superman is probably the strongest origin story. But that idea of an interconnected universe was probably the most difficult because of its complexity. And now that we've had an Endgame, would you prefer now, going forward, stories that involve interconnectivity, or would you still enjoy self-contained?
What a great question. Now that we've been spoiled by universes, how do you keep me down on the farm now that I've seen Paris? You know what I'm saying? Like, I know what's possible. And in my world, when I was making movies as a kid, I connected them all because I'm like, why wouldn't you? Like, this just makes sense that they all know each other and shit. I'm telling all these stories. I want them all connected. Why? Because I love comic books, and that's what they did in comic books. And then when Marvel started their cinematic universe, people were like, they stole your idea. And I was like, well, no, technically I stole their idea from comic books and brought it into movies and shit. So I have always loved the idea that, like, the 90-minute, 2-hour investment of your time in a standalone motion picture, I love it. Like, that's what I was raised on. But connectivity, like, I like sequels and always did as a kid. Always liked more. And liked when they would reference the other one. And not just, in overall, like, there's more fucking Gremlins. Like, when they make Gremlins 2, and then they fucking make fun of Phoebe Cates doing the sad, my dad got caught in a fireplace, where I'm like, they're aware of their fucking movie. Like, shit like that. So I love that kind of shit. I could still watch movies that absolutely stand alone, but, like, if you're telling me, like, and you don't have to do it, like, remember when Universal was doing the Dark Universe, and they're like, we're making a universe just like Marvel, and we're like, good fucking luck. You don't have to tell me that's your intention at the beginning, but, like, if that's what winds up happening, like, I'll always support that. In a world of preference, I honestly would love more interconnectivity. I'm not saying everything has to lead to an Endgame and shit like that, but, like, look, one of my favorite movies to watch over and over again, and we used to watch it, like, to go to sleep to, me and my wife, The Talented Mr. Ripley, which for the first time I saw it, somebody was like, what'd you think? I was like, I don't know, it's fucking pretty people doing simple things. Fuck them. And then I watched it a few thousand more times. I was like, oh, it's much richer than that. But that was set in a world, like, based on a series of books Patricia Highsmith wrote. So you could have kept fucking going, you know what I'm saying? And I would have fucking been, like, right there. Fletch, the Chevy Chase movie, that was based on a series of books, so they could have kept going. Fletch Lives wasn't based on any book whatsoever. They went original and stuff. So I love knowing there's more. It feels like, oh shit, for my investment in time, because we do invest time in these things. You fall in love with a goddamn movie. That's why sequels happen. Because people are like, I fucking love this shit so fucking much. And studios like, really? Would you pay for more? And then it took a long time, but, like, motherfuckers got artful about sequels, where they're like, yeah, we're in this for the money. Let's be honest. Like, we're not doing this for charity. We're not doing this to make you feel like a kid again. We're trying to make you feel like a kid again because we want your fucking money and shit. So it's all about money. We know that. That being said, can it also be artful? Can it also be fun? Can it also be fucking... Can't you reward the people who are coming again and again by, like, giving them shit don't cost you anything but time? Maybe dimes, like, maybe it costs a few bucks to show Captain America picking up that hammer. But most of the shit they do that makes you happy are little gentle fucking callbacks. Just saying the same fucking line on your left. Accompanied no special effect, but the reference of that line alone fucking brings you to tears in the movie and shit. You could do that if people are invested in your characters and your world. So I would always, I'm not saying like they'd all better be connected and shit. Like I've read the Bible and I've read Fletch and Jesus and Fletch know each other. Like I don't need them all connected, but if in a world of preference, I do lean toward world building. And, you know, it's in my blood anyway as a storyteller, and as a fan, it appeals to me like no end.
I am like you, but lesser so. Only in that.
It's how I've always thought of you in general.
Lesser.
He's like me, but lesser so.
Is that like, make me a great fucking movie. Like, first and foremost, make me a great movie. That's hard enough. Like, just making one great fucking Iron Man. If there were no more Iron Mans and we just got Iron Man, cool, great, happy, go home happy. Don't consider the universe mandatory. It's nice if it makes sense. Sometimes I don't need it. I don't need The Matrix 2 or 3. I just want the first one.
Yeah, but when the first one happened, you loved it so much that they were like, we're doing 2 more, and you're like, fuck yeah! And then they showed them, and you're like, fuck no! How'd you ruin such an easy fucking, oh god damn it!
Yeah.
Why is everyone fucking in a cave?
Yeah, you know, it's like as much as I love, you know, the Marvel Universe, as much as I love these stories that are deep and go on for a while, I also love The Iron Giant. I also just love the one great movie that could give me a sequel. I don't ever need a sequel.
That's what I'm saying. Like, could you imagine that one day somebody was like, Iron Giant 2? You'd be like, get the fuck out of here. I've been waiting for that because the head and the pieces were coming together at the end of that movie.
But I don't need it. Like, I am all for the discrete slab of culture that you can just ingest on its own and have it be great and move on from it. You know, Hollywood is out of that business. Otherwise, you know, there would be a lot more Inceptions, I think. You know, the giant $100 million brand new piece of IP that we're never going to make a sequel of just because it's cool.
There's a friend of mine who is pitching like crazy right now. And he went into a few places, including Legendary. And the people at Legendary were like, look, we're just going to be honest with you. We don't really do original ideas here. We do IP. Like, you know, you got Batman, we're fucking on board. You got a story that nobody's ever heard before, that's cute. Fuck off. You know, like, they want shit they're in the business of making shit that's fucking known. And, you know, it's a funny story to tell, but it is kind of troubling on a level of being a creative person who doesn't have access to major IP. It's like, well, how the fuck am I going to make a living one day?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And some of the movies that are our favorite movies ever are one and dones. You know, your Inceptions, your fucking, you know, The Departed, Sixth Sense. Like, just tell me a great story and let's be done with it. You know, and like, The Sixth Sense, honestly, does not need to be part of a universe, M. Night Shyamalan. Not everything needs to connect. Because sometimes when you connect it, you're forcing connections that don't belong there.
But you know what? To be fair, like, I like the fact that he backdoor universe that movie. And like, to his credit, he made like Unbreakable at a time where comic book movies were limping a little bit. Like, I believe that was a post-Batman and Robin movie. When people were like, comic book movies? So he was really like waving the flag. And if that movie had been more successful, I think he would have went into it like right away. But then he went on a very interesting journey with his career and then arrived at a place where he's like, you know what? I was doing something a few minutes ago. I'm going to go back to doing it. And a few minutes just happened to be like 10, 15 fucking years. So I was happy that he got to kind of go back. That being said, I love Unbreakable. I still haven't seen Split, and I still haven't watched Glass. And like every time I'm about to watch it on iTunes with my wife at night, I'm like, Glass? She's like, what else is on? And then we wind up doing something else. So I'll get to it eventually. She's just not as into it as I am, but I'll get to it eventually. But when I didn't get to go see it. I was busy and shit. But like, I support the idea, and obviously I'm taking 5 minutes to defend the guy about doing it. But like, I still haven't seen it. But I love that he fucking decided to go back and, you know, he wasn't too proud to be like, you know what, I was gonna do something, and then I get distracted by fucking Mel Gibson and Signs, and now I'm gonna go back and finish what I was fucking doing.
Yeah. So like, yeah, I'm all for a universe when it makes sense, but I'm also all for the discrete, just like, here's the thing. It's wonderful, it's perfect, it's 2 hours long. It is taking you on a ride. and you're happy that it's over because it ended where it needed to end. Every story needs an ending, and not every story needs to have that ending be 22 hours later.
Part of the journey is the end.
Yeah, I heard that in a movie, man, and it was good. I guess maybe, were you raised Christian, Catholic, or anything like that?
No, I was raised on Looney Tunes.
So was I. But I think that has a lot to do with it, man. Like, the Bible is one big ongoing story in which everybody kind of knows each other and shit like that. It's kind of like a comic book. That's why I was so comfortable with comic books, because I'm like, oh, he's just like Jesus, but he's got a better outfit, you know, shit like that. So I don't know. I guess I'm programmed for the long con. I mean, if I was raised Catholic, I was definitely programmed for the long con. But that being said, I do enjoy like shit connect. I know what you're saying. It's true. They could stand alone and stuff, but I don't know. I wonder if it's like, if it's based more on love of comic books or based more in being raised in a faith, which is a bunch of like superhero stories, or I just like what I like.
Just like what you like, baby.
Think so?
Yeah.
Is because like sports didn't work out? I had Shepard Fairey came over and did an episode. I feel like I'm name dropping a lot, but in order to tell the story, I gotta say, Shepard Fairey came over and did an episode of Smodcast. And he told this fascinating story about like he was a young sports kid and was in all these fucking like sports competitive shit. Then he busted his leg and he couldn't play, so he wasn't, like he was a guy who'd get picked first all the time. So then while he was busted and out of commission, he found out like nobody gave a fuck about him anymore. And he was like 9. So at age 9, he became like nihilistic as fuck and shit, because he was just like, oh, I see the game now. Nobody gives a shit. And so he liked sports, but he hated people because of that. So he's like, what sport can I play by myself? And he found skateboarding. And so in skateboarding, he found a culture of people similar and whatnot. And then he liked drawing and shit and doing cutouts and making stickers. And so then he made that Andre the Giant Has a Posse, and that led to Obey, and that led to his entire fucking career. And I was talking to him, and I was like, hey, man, if you don't fucking bust your leg, maybe you don't become Shepard Fairey. And he's like, probably not. I probably would have been playing baseball and shit. So fucking crazy. The turn of the screw is based on something so, like, something that in the moment was like, oh my God, he busted his leg. This fucking ruins everything. And then down the road, it's like, that was the key. That was the bridge and shit. You never know what it's going to be. Regardless, now I'm fucking long-winded. Those were great questions. You fucking win, man. Rashad, you get tickets, you get a shirt. Pleasure. Thank you for the goddamn kind words. All right, JC, what else we got?
Hi.
Hey, what's your name?
Shanna, like
Shanna?
banana.
What'd you say?
Like banana.
Shanna like banana. Everyone give it up for Shanna like banana. How are you? What can we do you for?
First of all, just thank you. I bought this ticket specifically so I could be here tonight to hear you talk about Endgame, and it wasn't until you talked about it that I actually cried, remembering the scenes.
Oh, man.
I didn't
sorry.
cry in the
You're
theater,
welcome.
and I didn't pee on myself.
Yeah, how did everyone do with the bathroom breaks on that movie?
It was good.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. I just held it. I clenched the whole time and shit.
Pretty much, yeah.
But I know some people, it's like an issue and shit. Like they were putting out articles the weekend it came out, like
Depends
when to pee
and
shit.
when do you break? And I'm like, have y'all never sat for 3 hours? I don't pee when I'm at work. I just like,
Or wear a fucking diaper.
I know, God.
Easiest problem to solve.
Hey man, we're in a fucking, you're supposed to reuse everything in this new culture and shit. Reuse the popcorn bucket. Take a piss in it right there. That being said, what do you want to know?
I decided to do a combo Game of Thrones Endgame question. Since the women are the only one on Game of Thrones currently who aren't useless, if you could cast any of the women from Game of Thrones in the MCU going forward, who would you cast for what role and why? So I was thinking like Maisie, Sophie, Lena, Amelia.
I mean, are we casting actresses or the characters from Game of Thrones?
Actresses.
All right, so I can't be like Arya Stark, because she would have killed Thanos quick. Fuck 3 hours, we would have been home in an hour.
Like, I thought Amelia Clark would be a great Sue Storm.
Ooh, I see what you're playing now. I want to play your game.
I see this game.
Yes, I like it. It's like when you watch Jeopardy and you don't understand the category until somebody gets it right, and you're like, oh, I can do that.
Foods that begin with Q.
Yes. You watch a lot of Jeopardy too. Let me see. All right.
I got one.
Go. You go.
Maisie Williams as Kitty Pryde.
Ooh. Ooh. That's fucking good. All right. Let me think. Marvel?
X-Men don't count because they just got
Because
added.
they just joined in.
Yes.
But I just did Kitty Pryde.
Oh, okay. But that was perfect. Never mind. It counts. Whatever counts.
You're
Whatever's
like,
good
I'm
counts.
amending my own rules. Okay. Let me see. Who is, that's another X person. I want to stay away from the X universe. Oh, Cersei, what's her name? Lena Headey? Sue Storm.
Okay.
I mean, let her play against type. Why does she have to be a fucking uber bitch that everyone wants to die? Again, let her be the opposite of that. Like, do something else. It's not a sexy answer, but I'm sticking by it.
You got another one in you?
Oh my God, you want more? Or
I'm
you
just,
haven't-
I'm just still thinking because I went so quick.
Well, I was, yeah, all right. Fucking, who plays Sansa?
Sophie Turner.
What if she played Jean Grey? That'd be amazing.
She.
Well done.
I'm sorry, I just got back from a 5-year snap, so I might have missed something.
Fuck, like the X-Men has all the great women.
Yes.
There's like, that's part of the problem with the Marvel Universe is that
Although there was that moment, that great moment where all the women banded together in the movie. Is that getting love or hate on the internet?
it's divisive on
Really?
the internet. Yeah, it's the people who feel like it's pandering, and then there's people who are like, well, fuck yeah, why would we not want this?
The whole movie's pandering. Like, it's fan service to the highest degree and shit like that. So that fits on. That's very on brand for it to be pandering. I thought it was a cool moment.
Yeah, I was down for it. Do you remember, I can't remember who, it was like Grant Morrison's new X-Men run. There was just like this old lady, I want to say it was like somebody's mom. I can't remember who it was. Do you remember that character? She was on the cover of a, fuck.
Wait, well, who is this?
When Grant Morrison was writing the X-Men,
Yes.
there was some like elderly female character who I want to say was like, not Magneto's mom, because that would have been too easy, but it was some.
Oh, you're right. I'm
remember
having
who it was.
vague memories.
Is she, yes.
Yes!
Who said that? Excellent
That
poll,
guy. I can
man.
honor
Holy shit. Deep cuts poll. Well done.
Yeah. So Catelyn Stark as that lady.
That's a good one too.
Yeah, whatever Catelyn Stark's real name is. I don't know any names. Like, I just know the face of that lady and the face of the lady she's going to play.
I didn't know we could use dead Game of Thrones people as well. It doesn't change my answer.
Ooh, Natalie Dormer as Emma Frost.
Oh my God, well, Lena Headey would be a good Emma Frost, actually. That's a little typecasty there, right?
Yeah, a little bit, but
Gwendolyn Christie.
Who?
Gwendolyn Christie. Brienne.
Gwendolyn Christie.
Craven the Hunter. But it's Craven with 2 N's and an E. Craven the Hunter.
That's fucking awesome, man. What a great poll. And she gets to play a villain as opposed to like a hero this time. Oh my God, you're on fire. I like all your answers.
No, your Sansa Stark as fucking Jean Grey was great.
That was just witty. What a great question. It got great answers. You win tickets. Give it up for it, ladies and gentlemen. Pleasure. All right, JC, line us up another victim. We have 2 sets of tickets left. What's your name, good friend?
My name is Brian.
Brian, everyone give it up for Brian.
Thank you.
What can we do you for, Brian?
My question was, with the new Disney streaming app and them announcing a Watchers-themed animated series, if you guys could take one moment or specific movie from the MCU and do a what-if scenario, which would it be?
Hold on, they're doing a Watchers.
What if?
They're doing
Yeah.
the What If cartoon
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
So they're going to use the Watchers in that? I guess they must, right?
Yeah.
Because Watu was always like the guy going, what if? All right, so the question is, what if movie?
No, if you could just do an episode of that show featuring one moment or movie from the MCU, what would be the scenario?
Okay, great question, number one. You want to go first, or?
I'll go
I?
first.
Go.
I'll go first.
Okay.
What if Old Man Cap gave the shield to Bucky instead of Sam? I don't know what that story is because they haven't told me yet, but there's totally a world in which that is that choice.
That's good. Okay. What if they put a sign on that little boy at the funeral so that we all knew who he was when we watched the movie and gave him his propers and shit?
It's just like, hello, my name is Tag.
I just would have taken hello, I was in Iron Man 3. The boy from Iron Man 3. Let me see. What Marvel what if would I like to see?
What if Thor: The Dark World didn't suck?
Good pull.
They reclaimed it with Endgame. You can't make that joke anymore. Let me see. What if Iron Man didn't, I mean, this is like, I don't have a one-liner, but what if Iron Man, his experience didn't make him go heroic, instead it made him go Dr. Doom. Like, he was just like, fuck these people. Fuck, they imprisoned me? Fuck this world. And he built an iron suit and punished everybody and shit.
Ooh. That's good.
I like that one.
Dark, I know, right? DC dark. Not anymore. DC's fucking light, man. You saw Shazam, right?
I saw Shazam.
I still have not.
How?
I will see. I haven't seen it. I've been busy.
Can you still see it?
I've been busy watching Endgame a couple thousand times. Yes, I will go see it. Everyone I know absolutely loves the movie, and they keep telling me, like, you're going to fucking love this, you especially. So I do definitely look forward. But they've become much happier fucking films.
Yes.
Between that and Aquaman, Under the Sea.
They become daffy.
Yeah, it's a bit daffy. All right, that's me. What do you got?
I already went. I did Bucky Gets the Shield.
Oh, that's right. You went first.
I did. And you went last. You came later.
I did. I came second. Shit, we did them both. That was a great question. You fucking win!
Thank you.
Come get your shit. Goddamn pleasure, man. Thank you. All right, JC. Our last question of the night. Hold on. Whoever put this up here, is this meant to be signed, or do we keep this?
Please sign it.
Please sign it. Who? Yours? Thank you. Hey, what's your name?
I'm Gabe.
Gabe! Everyone give it up for Gabe!
Hi.
Welcome, sir. What can we do you for, man? You're the last
Just wanted
one.
to say thank you. I'm sure, like everybody else in here, just thank you for whatever you do. I'm here doing what I'm doing in Los Angeles because of you too. So thank you for that.
Thank you, man. That means the world.
So my question is, Kevin, you did a Batman and Green Hornet crossover with your other podcasting partner, Ralph Garman.
Yes.
So,
Which, to be fair, I've said many times, but I'm going to say it one more time again. That is largely Ralph. Like,
Right.
Ralph was the genius on that project. I was very much shotgun. Ralph loves Batman 66. So when we got the job, I was just like, hey, man, I'm going to bring my friend Ralph Garman in because, like, he knows this world better than me. And they were like, go ahead. And then I brought my friend in, and it was like all about Eve because he just pushed me the fuck out and shit. But I always like to make sure that he gets full credit for that. My name's on the book, and I did a little bit, but like that was Ralph's baby. And I wished he'd kept fucking going because he was really good at it. But thank you.
well, here's the redo question. So if you had the opportunity to do a comic book with Mark, what would it be? And Mark, if you had the opportunity to partner up with Kevin on a comic book, which one would you choose? So any universe, it could be Image, it could be Dark Horse, it could be DC, it could be Marvel, anything. What would you guys choose to do with each other?
Ooh,
Well,
great
I mean,
question.
There was a thing
Thank
we
you.
almost did.
Yeah, did we talk about
We
that?
could, because we're never going to do it.
Yeah, and also he's out of the job, right? Are you talking about the letter?
No, the Alfred.
Oh, okay. We could tell that. We can tell another story too.
We could do that too.
We can tell. All right. You know what? It's a great question.
Thanks.
You're definitely going to win, especially because you're going to get out of this 2 stories that I don't. You've never told.
No.
And I know I've never told the other one.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, this is sexy.
Yes.
Sexy.
All right. So here's 2 things that we almost worked on together. You go first.
I can't remember the number of the podcast, but it was early on in the run. We were still talking about fucking Gotham. That's how early in the run it was.
Which, by the way, Gotham just came to an end. That should have been in our news.
I know.
Big finale.
Also should have watched it, but I didn't.
This fucking show's called Fat Man Beyond. You know? Yeah, they did come to a big close, and
apparently there was a Batman in it.
And Batman made an appearance and stuff. And they, you know, they built themselves a wonderful little continuity over the course of 5 years over there. An achievement, a stunning achievement. But I understand somebody told me they could never say, they couldn't call that character the Joker because they weren't allowed to. Because the Joker belongs to the Batman movies. Just like they couldn't, or I don't think they said Batman in Gotham. Because Batman belongs to the movies. So they showed him, but they couldn't. It was interesting. When I looked through that prism, I was like, oh my God, because of the way it's licensed. Okay.
Yeah, so we were talking about Gotham back when we watched Gotham. And we went off in this tangent about the culpability of Alfred in the creation of who Bruce Wayne is. Because Bruce Wayne probably doesn't become Batman if he's still like a young fucking kid who's broken. His parents die, and Alfred says, you know what you need, son? You need some mental help. Like, you need to talk to somebody. You need a shrink. You need a psychiatrist. You need somebody to help you deal with this massive grief and guilt that you're feeling over the loss of your parents.
You are traumatized.
Yes.
Having seen your parents murdered in, well, maybe they shouldn't have gone down a fucking road called Crime Alley, but still, you know, they got killed. That hurts a little boy's feelings.
Right. And it's a little boy who thinks that it's his fault because it's a little boy who wanted to leave the theater, and if he doesn't want to leave the theater, then everybody's still fucking alive.
In which continuity is this?
This
Tim Burton Batman.
Batman Begins too.
Batman Begins too.
Oh, that's right. He's just like...
he's scared. He's scared and he wants to leave, and so his parents take him out of the theater, and then the parents die.
That's not comics, though. That was never really a part of it. And even in Frank Miller's version, when he did like Dark Knight, and then when they did Year One and stuff. But yeah, I did like that aspect.
Yeah, it's a nice little tweak. But whether you want that part of the guilt or not, it's still a kid dealing with grief.
Could you imagine? It's fucking tough enough. Like, this character's got it hard enough. Like, I watched my parents die in a dirty alley. And then like 50 years later, some guy is just like, yeah, and it's your fault, you little piece of shit. Because you wanted to leave the theater.
Right. So this was going to be a 4-part sort of a series of like graphic novelettes, I guess you would have called it. Where the first part is about the night. It's about the night where Alfred has to go to the police station and pick up young Bruce and what he says and what he does and how he treats that kid. The second part is Bruce sort of walling himself in Wayne Manor. Like, he doesn't go to school, he doesn't interact with anybody who used to be a friend, like he's just turned entirely inwardly, and Alfred unwilling to let that boy heal. Like, he heals broken. He doesn't get him help. He doesn't have somebody sit down and say, listen, Bruce, it's not your fault. Listen, Bruce, it'll be okay. Listen, Bruce, this happens to everybody. And it turns out nobody else turns into a fucking Cape Crusader. Bruce, there's a way through this. The third chapter would have been just Alfred living in Wayne Manor when it's all fucking covered in drapes and shit while young Bruce is off in his year in the wild, like learning kung fu and learning crime fighting techniques and all of that shit. And the like, did I push this boy away? Did I not do enough? And then the last chapter is Alfred and Bruce Wayne go, and Bruce is like coming back from every night out as Batman, going out every night as to be Batman, and the steady guilt of, I did this to this boy. Like, every time I patch him up, I am trying to patch up my own guilt over not having gotten him the care that he needed. Batman is my fault, and I have to live with it every fucking day. So it's the tragedy of Alfred, really.
Brilliant. That's brilliant.
And like we didn't even like we sat on it for a little while. Like, hey, well, we should just fucking like call a dude and see if we can get something done. Like, we know guys who work at DC, some of which run DC. and it just never really got any traction over there. And then, ironically, they announced like an Alfred Pennyworth TV show. They were like, "Yeah, we don't think Alfred is enough of a sell." I'm like, "But the motherfuckers are going to spend like $80 million making an Alfred TV show, and you don't want to spend like 10 grand to make an Alfred comic book because you don't think there's a market for it?" Okay. But yeah, that was I think the first one that we were like, "Hey, we could there's something here."
There's something else that wasn't in comic book form, and I think it's I guess it's safe to talk about because it's like just dead. No chance of it ever happening. But years ago, Jeff Johns was on Fat Man on Batman, and we talked about like we're working on something because we were. There was a period where I was going over to DC every day, and we were sitting down in this giant room that had walls that were whiteboards that you could just fucking write on them and shit. And that's where they sit down and just map out things and ideas. And I'm sure other TV shows do it. That was new to me. First time I walked in, I was like, "You could write on these walls? This is just like me in high school. This is awesome." So we would sit there and cram and build, and we came up with a 10-episode series arc. And this is going back 3 years at this point, maybe 4. If you find that Jeff Johns episode, whenever Jeff was on, that's when we were doing this. We were building a series that we did take out to pitch to a couple places based on the question. And it was fraught with peril because the questions, nobody's quite sure who owns the question. There's some weird issues with its ownership because they came from the Charlton characters that DC bought, but they may not be able to use them in medium beyond print. It's just very complicated because for years I've been talking to Warner Brothers. Whenever they're like, "Hey man, do you want to do something? Like you love the superhero shit. What do you want to do?" And each time I was always like, the only one I'd really be interested in doing is the question. Because I think it's just fucking terrifying. Like, if you're in an alley and you're committing some crime and somebody's like, "Hey," and you turn around and it's a guy dressed like Batman, you're like, if somebody goes, "Hey," and you turn around and he has no fucking face and shit, you just piss your pants. That's fucking terrifying and stuff. So I was like, I think that'd be a cool noirish film. So for a while, we couldn't make it work in movies because they didn't know who owned the character. And I remember it had something to do with Watchmen as well. I remember they said, "We're having a bit of a problem with Watchmen because Watchmen has Rorschach, and Rorschach is based on the question." So there was even a weird legal entanglement there. So it wound up kind of going away. But the series that we mapped out was fucking dope. I'm a question fan, so like there was a high bar. And I wasn't working alone. I was working with him and this guy Pornsack, who's really fucking great. But we came up with this wicked cool show. And we went to Warner Horizon to pitch it. That was their video division or whatever the fuck. And then you'd sell it to a streamer. Nowadays, you just go right into the fucking streamer. Or honestly, you'd probably go to the DC Universe app at this point, right? So we went out to Warner Horizon, and they kind of dug the idea and stuff. And then the who owns the character entered the picture, and then it just kind of dissipated and fell apart. But Mark and I were going to be working on that.
Was there a question storyline that we should all read now that it was kind of based on, or was it totally
whole cloth new story, but using all the familiar elements and stuff? And it was Vic Sage. Hub City.
Yeah.
Whole
and that was
way.
the problem. It was Vic Sage. Like, that's why I think Greg Rucka invents Renee Montoya. So that, like, listen, we have to be able to do the question. It's too fucking awesome. We can't do Vic Sage. So let me invent a brand new character who now we own the complete rights to and can do in movies and TV and animation and everything.
Yeah.
But we were stuck with, fuck, damn, school. Sorry. Never gonna happen.
That's so weird. That's why they invented the Renee Montoya question?
I think that there was an interest in being able to put the question back into rotation.
play. Wow, that's fucking fascinating. Yeah. Do you know I'm sure most people, especially watching this show, would know this, but the yellow oval that surrounds, Batman's bat on his chest, or did for most of my life, and it went away for a bit, but it looks like it might be coming back.
Yeah, I read something in Detective Comics 1000 about that, yeah.
Yes, good story. I liked it.
It was a very good story.
Short, mercifully short. Guy didn't make Batman piss his pants, so I was A-okay with that story. But that yellow only exists because DC wanted to trademark a bat symbol, and they couldn't. Batman traditionally just had a black bat on his chest. You can't trademark that because that's just a picture of a bat. Nobody can own that. But the moment they put the yellow around it, that was trademarkable. So Batman only has that on his chest because DC was like, we want to fucking own that. We want to be able to make money off it. And then the writers were told, make this fucking work. And then they were like, all right, he's got a yellow oval on his chest and shit. And then it wasn't for 20 more years before Frank Miller was like, you know why he's got that oval on his chest? Why it's yellow? Because it's a fucking target and he's got a metal plate under there. And suddenly you're like, that's fucking badass. So a very creative talent took a very business decision and made it a very important, wonderful, touching part of the mythos and shit. Why did I tell that story? I
I
forget.
don't know. I love those kind of mercenary / like inspiration stories. Do you know that there are lyrics to the Star Trek theme song?
I remember, yes, and I know the last lyrics are, you know, remember me.
Yeah, it's awful. The only reason there are lyrics to that song is because Alexander Courage, who wrote that original Star Trek theme, was set to make 100% of the proceeds once you sell that music to records. We're going to cut a soundtrack. You get the money. Gene Roddenberry was like, you know what? I can get 50% of that by writing lyrics to that song. And suddenly I got to put my name on this too. Lyrics nobody will ever fucking hear. And now I get 50% of the publishing rights to this song.
So Gene Roddenberry was less Kirk and more Khan, is what you're saying?
He stole half of Alexander Courage's Star Trek money.
Wow, man. I mean, on one
Which is a
level,
dick
I'm sure
move.
he's like, hey, man, without my show, you don't get any fucking theme whatsoever. Yeah, welcome to Hollywood and shit. Fuck, that's wild. You know what, though? Wait, did you answer? I answered. Did you answer?
Yeah, I did, Alfred.
We both answered. Excellent question. You win the last tickets, man. Pleasure, man. Thank you. My God, did we run out of news and run out of questions? What time is it? 10:51. It's impossible to do this show any shorter than 2.5 hours. It's so fucked up. But I love it, and I would do the show for fucking 5 hours and shit. One night we got to try that. Just see how many people last. It's us and fucking these 5, and that's fucking it. No, not tonight, man. It's time to fucking go home and shit. Boy, oh boy, I love doing it, though. Did you have a good time?
I had a blast.
Ladies and gentlemen, did you have a good time this evening? It can be a horrible, sick old world out there sometimes, but whenever we're in this place, gathered together in this church, everything feels like it's going to work out. It's like, what is it? Like, they kept saying, like Tony says to his dad, he's like, everything's going to work out.
Yeah.
And Pepper, didn't she say it to him, too, at the end? She's like, everything's going to work
Yeah,
out.
you can rest now.
Yeah. Everything's going to work out, man. All right.
No. But I love this podcast, 3000.
Yes. Yes. Well said. The show is at an end, ladies and gentlemen. But don't forget Star Wars Day, May the 4th, right here at Scum and Villainy. This is a place, if you're on the West Coast, you want to be here, man. It's Instagram clickbait. You're going to get free shirts with dick pics on them. It's going to be fucking amazing. If you're on the East Coast, go to Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash. I'll be sitting there signing and shit like that on May the 4th. Which is May the 4th, isn't it? Thank you.
Oh, shit.
I mean, we are a comic book show. We should talk about that. This weekend coming up, folks, is Free Comic Book Day. So if you want to bring a friend or a kid or a friend's kid, just make sure you know the kid to a comic
have
book
permission
store.
to take
Yeah,
that kid.
don't just grab a kid off the street. That's illegal. But bring them to the comic book store and get some free comics into their hands, and not just kids, into the hands of adults as well and stuff. No better time to walk into a comic book store than this weekend and whatnot.
Yeah. Try something new.
Yeah. But that being said, boy, I've had a fucking blast, man. It's nice to kick back and talk about like things that you love deeply with people who are like, I feel you, man. Like, I don't think I'll ever get tired of talking about Endgame. You know what I'm saying? And I know it's early and we've just seen it and shit, but like, it was nice to sit here tonight. I loved hearing your fucking take on it. I'm like, you're right, it is about that. I'm so stupid. I just thought it was about money. And they made all of it, and I'm going to give them a little more in mine. I'm definitely going to see it at least 2 more times, I think, in the theater.
Yeah,
You
I
think you'll
think
see
so.
it one more time? 3 was enough for you?
Three was good.
Until you get home?
Until I get home. Or until I get back to my house. I'm like, ooh, we can go another time.
Yeah, no doubt.
4 is pretty good.
No doubt. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I know you shouldn't be saying this sort of shit, but like, Friday night that it opened, I couldn't get tickets to see it because they were fucking sold out and shit. So I was going on Saturday morning. So Friday night, I sat up on YouTube because somebody in some foreign country was putting up clips from Endgame, and I'd already seen it. So I'm like,
I'm in the clear.
and I couldn't fucking believe it. Like I'm sitting there going, no, this must be fake. I must be like some Russian is watching me right now or something like that. But it was legit fucking clips from the movie, and I was like, holy shit. And then Disney was pulling them down as fast as they were going up. So it was this race against time where I'm like, no, I just want to see the Hulk snap. Oh, fuck, they took it off. Pretty fucking amazing, man.
I went opening night, Thursday night, at the ArcLight in Sherman Oaks with a bunch of blurs. You familiar with the blurs? A bunch of black nerds. And so there's this little, like, very
You
kind
familiar with the blurs?
familiar with the blurs on your left. And one of these blurs in this group was Yvette Nicole Brown from Community.
Queen
And,
of the blurs.
Queen of the Blurs. And so, well, Uhura is Queen of the Blurs. She's Empress. Yeah, Michelle Nichols, she's still the reigning Empress. But so she's like, we got to get in. It's 9:45. The movie's going to start. We got to get in there. I'm like, why are you so fucking agitated, Yvette? We're going to be fine. She's like, we got to get in there. And so we sit there and watching the movie. And suddenly, like, Captain America gets in this elevator in Camp Lehigh. And we're all like, because she's sitting like, what? And then there's the minute where you're like, is that Yvette, or is that like a black lady who looks like Yvette? And if that's the case, does it get like racist if we're like, that lady looks just like you? She's like, it's me, motherfucker. I'm in the movie. And so just this weird little pocket of like, she kept this secret for like 2.5 years because she shot it 2 years ago.
Are you shitting me?
Yeah, she thought it was going to be an Infinity War. And so she went to go see that movie. She's like, I got cut out of the movie, I guess. Oh, well. And then she comes to this one, maybe I'm in this one, maybe I'm in this one. And she didn't know when, she didn't know where. And
She must have been terrified of that NDA to keep that quiet for 2 fucking years.
2 fucking years.
Wow.
And just this little like ripple in this pocket of the theater. Everybody's fucking applauding at Yvette Nicole Brown in the elevator. Like, what's so funny? It's like, she's here! She didn't tell us anything!
She's living the dream.
She's living the fucking dream.
She's 1970s SHIELD agent.
Jizz.
I love that sequence because Camp Lehigh always reminds me of 2 of my favorite scenes in Marvel movies. One is when Tommy Lee Jones throws the grenade on the ground and fucking everyone scatters except for Steve. The wimpy Steve jumps on it. It's a beautiful fucking scene. And then in Winter Soldier, when him and Black Widow go to the Emile Zola scene is fucking just spellbinding. It feels like a James Bond movie and shit. As he explains his plan, he's like, "You are sitting in my brain, Captain." Like all of that shit. It's like, oh my god. So when they went back again for this movie, when they went back to Camp Lehigh, it was Camp Lehigh, which is in New Jersey, and Stan's final cameo is Stan, breezing by in a car with a Nuff Set bumper sticker on it, and he's with a girl who I believe is meant to be Joni.
Oh.
That's when I look, because I've
sweet.
seen it twice now, and I'm like, holy shit, that looks like a picture of young Joni and stuff that he had once showed me. So I think it's a little deeper than just like, hey, it's Stan driving around with a girl. I think it's meant to be Stan's girl, which is really fucking beautiful. But that sequence takes place in New Jersey, Camp Lehigh, in 1970. That's when I was fucking born, bitch. So as I was watching the movie, I was like, I'm alive now. And then I remembered I'm part of the Marvel Universe thanks to Captain Marvel, so it's all fucking good.
Yes, it is.
Humble brag, humble brag. Ladies and gentlemen, have you got a good time this evening? I can't thank you enough for coming out, but there is no show without the man standing next to me. Give it up for the fabulous Mr. Marc Bernardin.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And that is Fat Man Beyond for this week. I'm Kevin Smith.
I am Marc Bernardin.
Tune in next time. Same fat time, same fat channel, smodcast.com or
YouTube.com/Kevin Smith.
Good night, everybody.